Welcome back, everybody. This is this is going to be episode 358. So I'm trying to hit 400 before the end of the year or by the end of the year. So I want number 400 to come out on New Year's Eve. But anyway, shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, Skirmish. The Skirmish system is the most badass stat tracking system for airsoft. It goes with you anywhere around the world. Any field that has this skirmish system set up, you could track all your airsoft stats, capture objectives, all kind of cool stuff like that. And there is a leaderboard that is set up on the website as well that you could track. And this will go anywhere that the skirmish system is set up. Balahack is using it, which is a huge airsoft field. 6mm Mandalorian is using it at his events, which he has some really big events. And go to playskirmish.net to find out more. And also go check out episode 157 of this podcast to listen to and get to know the owner and founder of Skirmish, Brandon. I did the podcast with him on episode 157, whenever that was, like 2 years ago. Also, shout out to Jackal Tactical. Thank you to the sponsors here. Go to jacktac.com to find out more. And Otherworld Milsim also, they run where they host events. They've got an event coming up next month, actually real soon, like in a couple weeks, down here in South Carolina at GTI. Go check out jacktac.com to find out more. All those links are in this description. Anyone that's watching or listening, if you have gotten in contact or found somebody that you didn't know of in airsoft through this podcast or because of this podcast, send them a message and let them know that you found them through this podcast. And also, if you have not gone on and done it, go onto all of the socials and where we have the podcast stuff and hit all the buttons you're supposed to hit. Okay, go vote for it on Spotify. I don't know, whatever this is, 5 stars or whatever, and or whatever you think it deserves. I mean, if you're listening to it consistently, then I'm guessing you like it. And if you don't like it, hit the 1 star. Okay, I don't mind. You won't hurt my one feeling, okay? 1 star for one feeling. That's it. Yeah, welcome, dude. Airsoft
Man.
Sparticus.
Yeah. There you
You're
go.
trying to get some cool stuff in the background there?
Yeah. Just to give you some full effect. The whole Spartacus, not to be mistaken for the MF Doom. I get it in every single field I go to. I'm like, oh, it's not MF Doom. It's Maximus from Gladiator.
Ah,
And all I
nice.
did was take the mask, painted a black color from the UK that's called Black 2.0. So when I play night games indoors, you can't see it because the light absorbs it.
Right.
And my favorite part is so it's easy to breach.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Well, we planned this, I think, last week, and then you were on the road. So what do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
give a background on yourself and kind of introduce yourself and then what you got going on?
So my name is Airsoft Sparticus. Most of my airsoft friends call me Spartacus. My outside airsoft friends call me Gerardo. I've been playing airsoft for 21 years, 22 years, something like that. So I found
Damn.
airsoft.
Okay.
Yeah, I found airsoft when I was playing college baseball. I told myself I needed to do something besides baseball in the summers, which was mandatory for me with the program that I was in. And they were like, "Yeah, you got to play 2 or 3 different teams in the summer." I said, "Okay, no problem, but I got to do something else besides baseball to get my mind off of things and off of college."
Hmm.
And I typed in, um, for some reason, I decided to type in military simulation on
Whoa.
Google, and then all of a sudden, I was like, "What is this. Then I dropped into airsoft and I've never looked back. I actually stopped playing baseball. My daughter's 6 years old. I started playing baseball when my daughter was about 3. And
Okay.
I didn't stop playing airsoft. I actually registered a company to be able to play airsoft more. Yeah,
How does
yeah.
that work?
So I created an online business. It's called Invinium Libertas, and I have a DBA under Airsoft Sparticus. So like when I went to Sweden, that's all gonna get handed to the accountant in January, February. Whereas I hear there's some expenses that Spartacus incurred for the business. So I'm like, you know what? My wife thought I was crazy. She supported me 100%. Now she's in the house. I'm in the shed. She's like, go do your podcast. Oh, yes, ma'am.
That's awesome.
There I am.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, man. I'm gonna pull up your Instagram too here in a minute. Go through some of your cool stuff you got on here, and but yeah, that's wild. You've been playing a long time, a lot of experience. And have you always been in the area you're at now?
Yes, I lived in Woodside and I lived in Queens and then Manhattan. When I lived in Manhattan, that was a trip to walk the streets of Manhattan, go to my car and load up the gear.
Oh
Just
yeah.
oh man, and
People
then
are
but
like, what the hell?
yeah. It was like I've gotten some people looking at me like going through JFK Airport, like the biggest airport in New York City, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that ever again. I'm gonna go to a different gun-friendly state. Like I went through Jersey, and it was a piece of cake this year. I was like, okay, I'm going through a gun-friendly state. But I've loved it. I think the sport is evolving in the last 20 something years. I see a lot more diversity of the group from young to older,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, man, big time. I mean, I've noticed that for sure. When I started doing these podcasts, I was, I'd reach out on Instagram like you and I met, and then through somebody else that I've had on here, and it's like the broadest, most diverse group of people that
Yeah,
are into airsoft. It's wild.
yeah,
And it's a group of people that normally outside of airsoft wouldn't really hang out with each other. And you got military veterans that are like, oh, let's shotgun a beer, okay, to to computer nerds that are
yeah,
playing Warhammer 40,000. Like in the real world, outside of airsoft, they weren't really connect. It's not like they would hate each other. It's just, there's not a whole lot of common interest there. So
yeah,
they but they get on the airsoft field and they're all geared up. They're like, what's up, dude? Like everyone's cool. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. It's like a melting pot. I've met. I literally, which is funny you mentioned military. I've met tier 1 operators who do airsoft,
Mm,
and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, we're running a course and in such and such amount of weeks it's going to be a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday course up in this closed location. It'll be 200-300 bucks. We'll teach you how to run nods, how to do maneuvering, how to set up your battle belt." And I'm like, did that just really happen? So that's one of the things I use airsoft for, is that if I show up to an event, if I show up to a field, and I'm like, okay, that guy's walking around like he was in. I've never served, so I'm very one, very grateful for our men and women that serve, and two, I'm a sponge where I'm like, what do you know?
yeah,
I
right.
don't know. No, like the 20 plus years I've been in airsoft, I every single time I meet a service member, I'm like, hey, if there's something tactically or even mental state of mind that you would want to share, that you learn, that for a fact should be taught, what is it? And every single time they get stunned because they're like, oh, here's the civvy asking me. And I'm like, yeah, man. I said, you did what I didn't do. You were in. I want to know, what'd you get from it? And I've been invited to classes and courses and to fields because of it. And my plethora of knowledge because of that is because of extending myself to the community that exists.
Yeah.
Because then, and when I went to Burget in Sweden, I extended myself to the community, and lo and behold, in the group of guys that we were playing with, there was a butcher from Poland, and I was like, okay. And he was like, hey, dude, listen, I hear you're a big carnivore. I can bring you some fresh cut meat so you don't have to do any shopping because you're worried about that. And in Burget, I was eating fresh meat because I made connections with a butcher, and then made connections with a guy who owned the cigar shop. So I'm like, okay, airsoft is freaking cool. Like, and the melting pot and the just networking alone is it's a crazy tool for networking.
Yeah, it is big time. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. What took you to Sweden?
So what was it? This was Burget number 20, and I went to Burget 17. I was trying. I was looking up. I said, okay. At that point, I've already passed the 15-year mark. I'm like, all right. I've done local stuff. I've done the immersive stuff. I've carried 100 pounds of gear. 100,000 rounds. The LMG. I've done night vision. I've gone to locations where we couldn't film because they were actual training grounds. I need to do a large milsim outside of the states where I need a passport. I want to do that.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine and we were doing this kind of manifestation thing where it was like every single day I would text and I would say Burget, Burget, for that corresponding year. And all of a sudden, one day I wake up, I'm at work, and this was while I was doing daytime union because I'm a union laborer.
Yeah.
I was doing a job in the city, and I look at Instagram and I'm like, this Irishman posted about Burget saying he can't go. He has a ticket for free, whoever wants to claim it. And I go,
Whoa.
hold on. That's like a $400 ticket with meal plan attached to it and an airport pickup if you want it. So I'm like, man, this is like 3 or 4 days later. There's no way. And then there was a little voice that said, you never know unless you ask.
Yep.
The worst thing is no. And the guy was like, his name's Alan, I believe. Yeah, Voodoo Tactical from Ireland. And he was like, yeah, dude, it's still available. I go, get out of here, man. I go, okay, I want it. He
Yeah.
goes, just show me an airplane ticket. I go, okay. 20 minutes later, I took my lunch break. I got on the phone. I ordered plane tickets to Stockholm, and I got my first ticket to Burget for free. All I had to do was pay a transfer fee of 10 euros to change name, information, and everything. And the guy was like, cheers, have fun. Man, and it was just purely manifested. When I did that, my friend, unfortunately, there wasn't another ticket. He had to pay for his, but I was like, man, this is, manifest destiny. Like if it's like the universe knew, one of my sayings that I always use is either find a way or make one.
Yeah.
The universe knew I'm either gonna find a way or I'm gonna make one, but I'm gonna make Sweden. And lo and behold, I made it to Sweden, and it was beyond insane.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
wild. You're the second guy I've talked to that just had been playing airsoft for a while and wanted to travel outside of the United States and chose some, like, I don't know, wild location like Ben Allen. He's his name is, or his Instagram is One Punch. He he lives in Alaska, but he went to his first big event. He went to freaking South Africa,
Yeah.
like out of
Yeah.
the blue. I'm like,
Uh,
what?
yeah. Those guys in South Africa are doing a great job. Like they reached out to me this year too, and they're like, listen, you've been trying to make it out here for 2 years. You went to Sweden. You got to come out here now. And I go, you know what? You're right. You're right. You're right. I even reached out to name's Nico, and I'm like, listen, I got to link up with you guys because I'm always talking to those guys on Instagram. And,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm trying. I've got a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a wife who, we choose to stay at home. So obviously I've got to put, food
Yeah.
on the plate, bread and everything. So I'm like, you know what? I'll figure it out. And it was one of those things where, the guys from South Africa, they're like, hey, listen, when you coming over here, and same thing with the guys in Germany. Like Germany's doing real big things. Like when it comes to airsoft immersion, like they're doing
Yeah.
like Germany and South Africa have that idea of festivity mixed in with the whole Milsim play, and it's like,
Mhm.
Yeah, because I always suggest to people that if you're going to do this, give yourself some time before the game and some time after, because it makes no sense to just go there and only enjoy airsoft, because
Yeah.
that airsoft scene is created by that culture there. So absolutely, if you go to South Africa, give yourself the time to enjoy beforehand and after. If you go to Sweden, give yourself time to enjoy before and after. Just because it's like I said, airsoft should be that tether where it's like, man, look what it did. Because I tell people all
Yeah.
the time, and like, oh, what do? You just why not join the military? And I go, well, one, with all due respect, I don't want to sign a contract where I have like my life, like I have zero control.
Yeah.
They tell me to jump, and I have to say how high. I respect it. I don't want to do it. You
Especially
know,
nowadays.
yeah, like I chose not to do it. You know, what I chose was to use my money and pay for that kind of training. Is it the
Hmm.
same one scale training? No, but I have Aussie repelled off of the top of a 6, 7 story building. I have fast roped. I've helo casted.
Ooh, that's
I've
cool.
I've jumped out of an airplane 13,000 feet. All that
Oh,
stuff, and
tandem. Yeah, yeah.
and I'm like,
Yeah, those are fun.
and I'm like, listen, I'm doing it. Like, you know, I'm never gonna ride a roller coaster. I'm never gonna do any of that stuff that the normal person looks for adrenaline. Because I'm like, man, once you get told to step off the side steps of a helicopter, there's just no other kind of adrenaline rush. And I did that. That was a course in Virginia that was given, and the focus on weapons was airsoft. But we learned real steel. Like my first real steel I shot, this was 2010, and it was in May in the Outer Banks, and it was by like some serious people,
Yeah.
and I was holy moly, and the guy's like, congratulations, son, you shot your first rifle. I go, whoa.
What was it?
And airsoft,
What was the?
it was a Chechen AK-47, and the guy
Ooh.
like, we're gonna fire a Chechen AK-47. The gentleman that owned it does not need it anymore. I was like, I was like, okay. And I was like,
Enough said.
and they were pipe hitters, and it was like, and because I paid for it, I got to learn how to fire and learn how to fire the legit way. Where it's
Hmm.
like, I'm in New York City, man. Ain't nobody here going to teach me the way a country boy in Virginia is going to teach me, who's
Right.
been in 10, 15, 20 years with soft and everything. And I'm like, okay. So the first time I fired a rifle was I was laying prone, aiming it at a balloon. And I hit it with my first round because I had an insane instructor.
Yeah.
He was in my ear whispering, kicking my legs open, moving this, moving that. And he was like, squeeze, bang. I was like, holy cow, this
Yeah.
is this is why everybody goes bananas over this. I go, I get it. Yep, count me in, sign me up, Scotty. Beat me up, Scotty. I'm a gopher for this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And now my 4-year-old son can rack my Glock.
That's awesome.
And it's like, my 6-year-old daughter knows where the mag release button is for AK, M4, Glock, for the AAP, and my friends look at me and they're like, and I'm like, yeah, man, yeah, then, that's just taught. Like that's what I want to teach my kids,
Uh-huh.
and you know, because of airsoft. Like when I talk to people about airsoft, I'm like, listen, this is Call of Duty in real life.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, Ready Player One. This is the gamer. Like,
Yeah. Right.
is like I've been in like with Burget, with with Zulu 24 upstate New York, and then with like Full Auto and all those other places, like, Lights Out, Nods, Mortar, UAVs, uh, mine-sweeping tanks, AT4, anti-tank. And I'm like, man, I just sometimes I literally sit back and I'm like, holy crap, this is pretty cool. Like, I remind myself, right? Hang on for a second, G. Look around. Most people are okay sitting behind the desk, doing what they're doing 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. You're over here living for that one time a year that you're going to the event that you want to, or the few times a years that I'm like, okay, I'm going to this event, that event, that event. And I'm like, man, airsoft is freaking great. And like I tell people, I'm the poster child for airsoft. I'm 40. I'm gonna be 40 next year. People are like, yo, when's the last time you've been to the gym? Like 10 years ago. but I pack 100 pound backpack and I can hit the Swedish wilderness for 5, 6 days straight, and outrun 20-year-olds at 39. And I'm like,
Right.
listen, gym ain't everything, man. You got to be able to put out and airsoft because of airsoft. Like airsoft has kept me in shape because I want to be in shape to be able to play airsoft.
Yeah.
Like to carry my LMG. Like I said, like 1 year I did Benghazi with Zulu 24, and one of my friends grabs my backpack. He's like, "You're my hero. How much does this weigh?" I go, 99 pounds on the dot. And he goes, "Oh," and in my defense, if you look at my Instagram, there's a picture of what I looked like several years ago.
Hmm.
Um, right before my daughter was born, I was 195 pounds. Maybe no, sorry. What am I talking about? I was 275 pounds
Is it the one with you've got
with the green shirt holding
oh, okay,
flower,
let me see. I'm on your
and,
Instagram right now. I'll pull it up for you.
and it was with the one with the green shirt holding flowers at the door. And I showed the side by side picture, and I was like, "I'll show you."
This one's got a side by side.
Yeah, and that's me. That's me still losing. Yeah, that's a 225, and then at 185, and I'm right now 195, 190,
Yeah.
and it's like I tell people all the time. I'm like, listen, the weight I lost, I was able to put on a backpack. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
it's because of airsoft. Where I'm like, airsoft saved my life because I'm much healthier. Like,
Yeah, that's happened
absolutely,
to a lot of people, man.
and I can't stress it. Like I got guys who are like, well, I go to the gym all the time, and I'll bring them to play airsoft, and they're huffing and puffing. I'm like, yeah, how's that gym? How's that gym life working out for you, man? I'm like, all you're doing is carrying a rifle and a hydration pack, like with the bladder in their rig and a rifle. They're huffing and puffing, and I'm like, listen, if my body doesn't feel that extra weight, it feels off when I'm playing airsoft. That's
Yeah.
how used to it my body is.
The problem is a lot of these guys don't understand what cardio means. They think it's my cardio day. It's like you don't you're looking at I don't know, burning calories or burning fat or something, and cardio is cardiovascular. It's
Yeah,
how much can you work? How much work can you put your body through with the least amount of oxygen? That's what it does. Like
yeah,
the better your cardiovascular system is, the more efficient it is. It's going to use oxygen better, and you could run a marathon and barely be out of breath. Like when you get in that groove, like that's the kind of but when you when you have no cardio vascular system, that's built up, you're going to walk 15 feet and go,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Have that mental fortitude where it's like,
yeah,
you know, you know, like I said, the courses that I took, those guys taught me how to unscrew yourself when your brain starts questioning everything. And you're like, okay, well, shut the heck up. Shut the hell up. I'm in charge now. Whether or not that subconscious voice that starts coming toward the front, you're like, all right, well, it's time to shut up, Buttercup, and put out. And it's one of those things where it's like all of a sudden, when I was much more out of shape at like 250 pounds, I didn't train at all, but that mentality was still there. And I went and did a Tough Mudder with a friend of mine, and he was training for weeks and months. And I'm like keeping up with him. And I'm like, man, if there's any evidence that lets you know that the whole gym life thing isn't really what it's cut out to be, unless you understand what you should be doing,
mm-hmm.
I was just keeping up with him. And then all of a sudden, when we get to the Tough Mudder part where the ice bath is, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to stay there a few more minutes. He ran through it. And I'm like, nope. I know what this can do for me. I know getting older, that ice is fantastic for my body. I got into that ice plunge, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna stay for a few seconds. I'm just gonna showboat, make a few muscles for the camera. And in reality, me cooling my body down. And once I did that, my body's like, okay, let's go for a few more miles. And again,
Nice.
that's because of the guys that I met in airsoft, where they're like, listen, you know, break the body, you break the mind. If your
So
body does, go ahead.
this do you see this picture I got pulled up? This is
Yeah,
when you're in Sweden, right?
yeah, that was my first Burget. Yeah,
This is awesome, dude. I love this picture.
Yeah, that was
Anyone that's just listening to audio, if you go, if you want to go back and see where we're at, I got his Instagram pulled up at around 30 minutes. I pull it up. So, and go to his Instagram and check out and follow him and let him know that I sent you there. But yeah, this is a cool picture, man. You got
yeah,
paint, war paint on your face.
yeah. And even
That's
that, even war paint, like I don't take credit for any of the stuff I know. The war paint, I got taught by a SEAL commander how to put war paint on and where to do the contortion, where to do this, where to do that. And I'm like, okay, I'm all ears. And it was like, okay, you do this, do this, do that. And there's guys that are like, oh, but that's off. Uh, Not really, because with that, I was a medic in that first Burget that I went. I was disappearing in the bush.
yeah.
Everybody else had Russian camo. I had all green. And
Mm-hmm.
I was okay. I researched Sweden and I said, okay, they have moss all over the place. I'm not breaking apart that green lining that moss has, especially because at that part in that part of the year in Burget, the sun plateaus and it doesn't go completely away. It'll plateau in the horizon at just about what like here in the Northeast, what we would see like at 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's the lowest the sun will go. It'll plateau and then it'll start rising up again.
Hmm.
So you're really dealing with light the entire time.
Uh,
The 5-day event, you're dealing with just being exposed to light. So one of the things that I learned from playing airsoft so much is using the sunshine. So I would move around with the sun on my back. If I was attacking or remedicing somebody and reliving them, I would literally pull them into the shadow, and I tell them to lay down. This past Burget, I started making it really fun. I have footage from it, and the family life is where I'm like, man, I gotta do the footage. But in
yeah.
the footage, every guy that I medic or every person I medic, I would add the saying, "We're American. We're here to help," and people would start laughing and loving it. And it was like, man, again, the stuff that I learned is not from my own doing. It's literally from the men and women that were in or are in. And it's, I couldn't take any credit for it. Let me tell you, when there's people that say, oh, but does it really translate into airsoft? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. There are some tricks to the trade in the military that if you pay attention and listen to what they have to say, oh my God. You got guys from like Hollywood from Zulu 24 took us out into the field one time, and this was way back when he first opened up his field. And one of the first things he says is, when you make that first sound in the wilderness, you grab attention. It's that second snap of twig that gives your location up. The easiest thing to do when you snap the twig the first time is just get down on the knee. You'd be surprised how many people stand up straight and how many people don't just get down on the knee.
Hmm.
And I'm like, and that simplest trick has worked for the last 15, 20 years since he taught me it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, man, I'm so happy I picked the brains of all these people that served, because it does indeed translate. Now, if you're breaching a room, is that going to translate the same? No, man. When you breach a room, it's just about who's going to be less of a BB sponge. That's a whole different thing. And when you pulled up there, that's my So I threw an event once at Zulu called the Gladiator Games, where it focused on gas blowback with obstacles and kill house like that, using the chameleon system from T-Rex Arms, and that was a blast. That
Oh,
was a
okay.
blast. Yeah, that was a hot day. That was July 1st. It was like 100
Whew.
degrees.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. It was
yeah,
like, man,
buddy.
it was warm. But again, like my body when I go play airsoft, the extremes, it's almost like my body's welcoming it and expecting those extremes. Like, hey, I want this.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah, yeah, pretty
Hmm.
much. If the suck factor's high, you smile ear to ear.
There
I
you
know
go.
that sounds weird, but I'm sure you understand that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, once you get in that mindset, you just like, how people dread going to work. And I'm
Yeah,
like, these guys I worked with in this factory one time, they were just like, every night they came in, We did work a lot of overtime. I'm talking 6 and 7 days nonstop. Like it was,
Yeah.
we barely got a break, and so it definitely burns you out. But these guys were young; they're in their early to mid 20s at the time, and they would come in and they were two brothers and great guys and great workers, great guys. But they would come in and they would just they were like, oh, this, and then it's going to be like this. And I'm like, dude, I said to him one time, I said, look, man, it's just work. Like, don't make
Yeah.
it more than it is in your head. Because
Yeah.
that's really what defeats a lot of people is
Yeah.
anticipating how hard it's going to be rather than just doing it. Like,
Yeah.
don't think it, overthink it. Just do it. Okay, don't worry about it. It's just work. Like, it's no
Yeah.
big deal. It's going to end.
Yeah.
It'll end.
Absolutely.
So you
Yeah.
got some good training stuff, man. This is cool. Okay.
And again, all that literally is, at some point in life, I had a member from the military that I would train with. They put their hand on my shoulder and literally walk me through it at the slowest pace possible. And
Now,
then
when did you decide to put a mask on in airsoft? This.
so I'm trying to think. Like that had to be maybe midway through, maybe
Yeah.
even it must have been, you know what? Probably like around maybe around the time my daughter was born, maybe about
Okay.
6 years ago or so, maybe like 6 years ago or so. I got the inspiration from one of my favorite movies, which was The Gladiator,
Mm-hmm.
Russell Crowe,
Yes,
and
sir.
one of my favorite inspirational warriors of historical figure is the actual gladiator Spartacus. And
Spartacus. Yeah.
I was like, and I think around that time is when the show Spartacus actually aired, and I was like, all right, holy crap,
Oh, the
you
first
know,
one, the first
yeah,
season.
yeah, the first season, and I was like, man, okay, I call my, I named myself Spartacus, but am I really that? I need to immerse myself in that character, especially with my background, where I'm like, I'm big on the warrior culture. I'm trying to coin the term cultured gladiator, where it's like, you can be in with the modern times, but with a historical gladiator like mentality. Like what we're
Mm-hmm.
saying, you already started work. Why are you moping?
Yep.
You already started it. Might as well reward yourself by finishing. But you're gonna quit midway and waste the effort, then your brain's gonna remind you of the wasted effort you committed to, as opposed to, hey, finish it up. So when my daughter was right around the time my daughter was about to be born, I guess something clicked. And I was like, all right, if I'm gonna have her look at what a man in my perspective, what I think she should follow, if I end up having a son, now I do have a son, he's 4 years old, what he
Nice.
should, I need to be the example. And that's where I dropped the weight. That's when, the audio books, like all the books that are back here, like, 20, 30 books a year. And it's like, okay, I need to, you know, put my money where my mouth is and actually be the kind of inspirational figure I chase. So it's like, all right, if I'm going to be Spartacus in the historical figure Spartacus led 30, 40,000 freed slaves and gave Rome a run for their money for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until he was betrayed that he fell, but it was pretty close to the walls of Rome that he got. And he was an inspiration. He was trying to free the whole gladiator circus that Rome would have, and Rome was given the people, where it's like, okay, well, they're slaves and they don't want to be slaves anymore. What'd you expect the slaves to do? And that's how I run my persona. When I started, I was like, modern day slavery, working the 9 to 5. You're not doing anything for yourself. You're not finding a hobby. You're not really, you know, diving deep and figuring out who you are. And that's when I meet people in the field, especially the younger generations, I'm like, listen, read, read. Turn off the TV, turn off the media, turn off the radio. If you're going to listen to something, listen to a book, listen to inspirational music. It exists. It doesn't have, it doesn't have to be religious music. You can listen to the Swedish Viking music. Heck, that's pretty inspirational. Do something that makes you feel happy without it being destructive, and watch where it takes you. And that's why I always tell people, try airsoft. If you love playing video games, try airsoft. Can it be pricey? Yes, but this is the cheapest era for airsoft I have ever been in. My
Really?
first rifle, yeah, my first rifle in airsoft was a what was it? A TSD, I think was the name of the company, and it was an M4, and it cost me like $450 before I had to get it modded. I watched the guy modify it in front of me, and I was like, what did I do? This guy is dremeling the end of the buttstock. The, the battery for it was like a brick. It was like three Nokia bricks in length, and I was like, holy crap, what is that? And it was still like I was playing against guys with sistemas, and I'm like, this ain't nothing. I just dropped $150 on top of a 400, 450, $500 rifle, and I'm still trying to reach these guys.
Oh my
Now,
God.
now if you drop $500 on a rifle, you're gonna have a pretty decent rifle. Like there's some
Oh yeah.
companies out there, man. You drop 400 or $500 on a rifle, you got a great indoor outdoor rifle with an easy adjustable spring that you could just pop out and put an outdoor indoor spring. I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, and then I try to tell people, hey, don't go with the whole military issue boots, this and that. I go, listen, the real guys they wear Chuck Taylors, man, and jeans. Like the real guys that bump in the night, those guys wear sneakers. They wear Salomons, they wear freaking hiking shoes with jeans. They really don't. They don't wear stuff that's like gonna, you know, give them away. They're just trying to blend in.
Right.
Surprise. And I tell people, use airsoft as a way to connect to your inner self. Find that inner gladiator. Because there's so many distractions that we live with in today's society, where it's like, where can you go from 9 to 4 or like 10 to 3, leave your phone in the setup area and just disappear in the bush with other like-minded people in that specific time frame. Like
Hmm.
that's really hard.
Yeah, for real, bro. I was just looking up that TSD because I know I've heard of that brand before. I think we might have got one in our mystery box, to be honest, because it was we were getting some of the older guns and stuff. We got one the first, I think it was like the first couple months we started doing the mystery box or unboxings. We got a TAR 21 that was like the tag on it was
Yeah,
like the last time it was inspected was like 8 years prior. So, it's fine. It was sitting on a shelf, but it's a cool weapon. I like that
yeah,
design. So, but yeah, that's cool, man. Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, airsoft and the designs on the replicas. I mean, like the replica I have here, this AK-74.
Yeah, let's see
But
your stuff, man. Show off
so
some of your
so
cool
this is
gear.
the one I took to Sweden, and it was completely decked out by Real Deal. So I got it off of a friend. He was like, "Hey, listen, I don't want to play anymore." And for some reason, a lot of my friends are like, "Listen, I don't want to play anymore. Do you want to take the gear off of my hands?" I go, "Yeah, sure. Anytime you want, come back, hit me up, and you can play." Um, and I took this AK off of him. So I was like, "Okay, it's a SEMA. No, sorry, it's an LCT."
Okay.
Which I was, crap, you're giving away an LCT? And he was like, yeah, man, just take it. I was like, okay. So he gave me an LCT with about 5 or 6 mags. Real Deal dropped in a plethora of just, I mean, he changed the motor, the MOSFET, the buckings, the cylinders, the the gears. Like I was like, hey Jake, what are we doing? He was like, well, first of all, you're going to be a sponsored athlete if you're going to take this to Sweden. I go, it's fine by me. I go, fine by me. So this baby was slinging three eighths at 1.59 joules. Meanwhile, 1.6 was the limit, and
Dude.
it was touching 200 feet. Like
Yeah.
I was sitting in positions in Sweden where I became the middle of a triangle fire effect, where I was the middle hitting two technicals and then like guys on the hilltop. and they couldn't tell where I was coming from because it was such a long distance. And I'm like, man. And I was like, in the middle of the firefight, you see me reach for my phone, and I'm calling real deal. I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. And the thing is, in Sweden, you could go full auto for this event. You just had to stay under a certain RPM.
Mm.
And I was at 26. And it was just like, I was like, man, you would just hear it go. And I'm like, man. And the guy's like, ow, hit. And this baby was just, I mean, give me 1 second. Let me bring up because he texted me. I was like, Jake, you got to let me know. Here we go. So, 380 FPS. And at that point for Sweden, it was doing 25 RPS.
Mm-hmm.
It's got RD piston assembly. It's got RD cylinder head, RD CNC bushings, RD real deal, brushless motor, a real deal high speed delay chip, Jeftron optical version 3 MOSFET, and shim 13-to-1 gear set. Yeah, it's because I tell them, I'm like, listen, I don't care what it is. Take your time. Just, take your time, get it done. I want to be able to, like, I was a athlete for a long time. I was a college captain, baseball, all that. I tried to pursue that as a career. So there's an athlete in me where I play airsoft, and I'm like, I might look like the old guy because I got some great, but I will outrun you. And I told Jake, I said, Jake, I need something that can keep up with me. And I have an M4, an MP5, an AK, and an LMG where he built all of them up. And I'm like, man, it's not fair. It's not fair because guys think that these things are Polar Star. And I'm like, no, man, it's an AEG. This is not Polar Star. I can't run with a tank. Tank will slow me down.
Mm.
I tell people all the time, like, I can't run with a tank. Like this thing, like that's. And then I'm like, Jake, he's like, listen, when you're on the podcast, just put it on full auto because there's no more brakes on it. I let it go full auto. I'm like, all right. So with Jake, I'm like, and that's just one little finger.
Unfortunately, we can't hear it because are you on your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got auto noise canceling, so anything loud it won't. Yeah. And
But
I don't think there's any way to turn it off on your phone, but
no, there's
yeah.
no way to.
Yeah, we
So,
can see you're pulling trigger, but we don't hear anything.
and it's an amazing thing. And then one of the things he decided to do is because of the theme of the gladiator, if you can see, he's got the Greek key on it.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, and then my logo,
Right?
which is prepare for battle.
Awesome.
And then he's got the Spartacus emblem and everything. And I'm like, man. And then one of the coolest thing he did is because originally when I got it from my friend, the charging handle broke, and he was like, dude, I got you. He randomly, like, from one night to the next morning, he's like, I 3D printed you a charging handle. I hope it works. I threw in another extra version of a charging handle in so that when you take it to Burget. And I was like, Jake, not only did it work, but it's like, this is 3D printed. I said, Jake, the more I used it, because I was literally on the run, I'm like, okay, he's a little further away. I would bring out my Spectre Arms scope, which was fantastic at ranging people. And I was just pull back the charging handle, just let go. And I'm like, man, I know he did this thing from like, one day to another, but holy crap, way to like kill it. Like the charging handle. And I'm like, man, I was like, Jake, yeah, dude, you're freak. Like, you're a freak, dude. Like, this is just like, that was just in your mind. How? Like, how did you just think that up? Like,
Oh, that's
that's
cool,
amazing.
man.
And he's one of the main reasons why I've been able to keep into airsoft the way I have, because it's like his real deal products where I'm like, no no hits on other companies that are out there. I'm sure there are plenty of really great companies out there and they exist, but like the real deal store, like the stuff that he's provided me with, I'm like, Jake, every single time he's like, listen, do this, do this, do that. Check this out. I did this, I did that. Let me know. And then the next thing, I always love that he says it. He goes, run it to the ground. I break it. I need to know what kind of stress it needs to break. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, got it. And it was like the one thing that I did that with was the LMG. And it was like, man, he made me an LMG that I ran at Benghazi for Zulu 24. I had 100,000 rounds and I came home with 5,000 rounds. And yeah, yeah.
Bro,
So
what?
the picture on Instagram that I have where I have that big ass backpack on, there's a
Let's find
stone
it. Let's find it because
there's,
that's
there's a
crazy.
stoner yeah, there's a stoner LMG that I have. It's the classic army with the I want with the legit OEM, and he just took it all apart, put in a whole bunch of stuff, and he was like, "Listen, this is gonna be a keep on. Let me see if I'll tell you." So you see that picture with the go back up. You see that picture with the yeah. That was when I was big as hell. Man, I was not a worry in the world going to work, and I was like, man, I need to do something about it. And this was one of those moments where I said to my wife, listen, um, I got to be a great example for my daughter when she's born. She can't see me as a slob, heavy, etc. I got to clean up. That's the picture where that's a 100-pound backpack, and that's the LMG. I had
Right.
not had the whole thing. I had that was my 24-hour pack, and we weren't supposed to take pictures at that facility because it was a undisclosed area of West Point. And
Mm,
I was like, "Nah, man, I'm taking a picture of this. This is gonna be a pretty epic night. I'm taking a picture now." And they made us hump 2.5 miles, and the guys are huffing and puffing, and I was so ecstatic. I'm like pulling weight, and I'm like, "Man, I'm gonna mess them up. This this is gonna be so great." When the lights went out and the sun went down, man, the tracers, it was like just going nuts. Guys were like, "Wow, dude, I've never seen anything like that outside of like real war footage." And I'm like, "Man, that was pretty intense, you know."
that's cool.
And again, the real deal rifle, and it was great. It was great. I mean, he builds great instruments for me, great replicas.
Who
And
is
I
it?
can't.
Who builds them for you?
The real deal.
Oh, the real deal?
Yeah, the real deal airsoft, and it's if you guys if any of the listeners get a chance to look at his merch and his builds, soon I'll have a discount code for everybody. I'm working with guys like Jeffrey, like Hefe Airsoft. That's another great guy that I met
Yeah.
in Florida. I did a Halloween event with him where I acted like a berserker. That was great.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, again, airsoft to the rescue when it comes to giving some excitement in life. And I got to take my kids to Florida, and I took my wife to that event. So it was like, all right, I left my kids with a friend of the family, and then I took my wife for a 5-hour trip to Hollywood Beach. And I was like, all right, in an Airbnb, we're not gonna see our kids till the next night. And now I told my wife, I said, listen, when I go to Sweden next year, we're gonna first go to Germany because we have friends there. I have airsoft friends there that we have family, and I have airsoft friends there that want me to play an event there in May. I said,
Hmm.
I married a Greek woman, so I'm gonna spend the whole end of the spring and most of the summer in Greece. I mean, in Europe.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I tell people, I'm like, listen, if you want to do, Sweden with me in 2025, now's the time because you know I got bit by that travel bug where it's like now my wife is like, listen, we homeschool. We don't have to do
Oh, that's
anything.
awesome.
We take our kids on the road and teach them. And and my kids are like, Dad,
Especially nowadays, that's wonderful. Yeah, my
yeah,
youngest son, he's home. They're home. Him and his wife are homeschooling their three kids.
yeah. And it's if you can do it, it's amazing. It's a lot more work, but
Totally worth it.
if you want to talk about return on investment,
Bro.
everybody's like, oh, how are you going to socialize your children?
That's
Man,
what that's the only thing people can say about, oh, homeschoolers never get any socialization. I'm like, yeah, they do, bro.
my
That was
daughter
like,
doesn't shut up.
I'm saying this is back when okay, 100 years ago when there was a house every 3 miles. Like you didn't have
Yeah,
someone to play with and you
yeah,
stayed at home. You didn't get socialization outside of your home. But today, dude, the internet, okay, tablets, like TV, like all kind of stuff. They get on there. My 6-year-old granddaughter plays Roblox with her cousin and like her family, right? That are
Yeah,
her age, like in the same town, but live in different houses, 10 miles apart, whatever. That that counts as socializing. I know it's not the
absolutely.
same as getting together, but we still get together. Like we have
Yeah,
big family get-togethers, and I mean, yeah, that one thing. It's like there's no other bad thing to say about homeschooling. It's like they
yeah,
got to say, "Oh, your kid's not going to be, socially adapted or whatever." I'm like, yeah, yeah, they are.
yeah. I mean, I get stopped all the time where they're, random strangers are like, "Wow, your kids are so well mannered,"
And
and
at
I go,
least they'll, you can teach them how you want. You're
"Yeah,
not going to have
absolutely.
all kind of stupid, whatever stuff you don't want stuff that shouldn't be taught in
Yeah,
schools.
yeah,
Okay, that kind of crap.
yeah." And
So
living in New York City, that's the biggest thing where it's like,
yeah,
my daughter was diagnosed with mild autism in the beginning, and then we tried two, three different schools now, and
okay,
it was like, okay, they're not working out at all. They're not
yeah.
working out. Not they're not there for the child. That's the footage from the Berserker that I was as a Berserker in at a Halloween event for Hefe Airsoft. That was a blast.
Okay.
Charging at people, screaming at the top. Ah!
Oh, and you
People
got
are,
chains on too, man.
yeah,
That's
I had
crazy, bro.
blood, chains, body parts hanging off of me on the chains. I went full on. He was like, "Holy crap!"
That's awesome.
Like, yeah, this is what it's about.
Do you have any
And
other close-up pictures of your other guns, like all your gun, your
let me see.
LMG, your
The LMG's in the shop.
MP5?
Yep. 1 second. If you let's see, I'll tell you right now. That's the
That's cool looking.
that's yeah, that's Burget. That was a blast. That was, man, those guys, I'm gonna tell you, Iraq, those guys treated me like royalty. I had a cigar in my mouth for every meal of the day. They're like, Spartacus, we hear you're a cigar smoker. I go, yeah, man, I'm from the Caribbean. Like, we roll that stuff up, like we grow tobacco in the backyard. We we hang it in the outhouse. And the guy is like, well, I got a double shot dark Cuban espresso for you. I go, oh man,
Oh
who
my
gave you?
God.
I'm like, I love it. I'm like, I love it, man. And it was like by the end of the fifth day at Burget, I must have inhaled like 20, 25 cigars. I
That's
was the one,
awesome.
and because of the journey, like the journey is 6 hour, 8 hours by plane, 8 hours by car with the group of guys,
Yeah.
um, and if when Roshan, Marcus, Victor, all those guys, Snowman, when they get to watch this episode, I just want to say special thank you to them because without them, I don't get to go to Burget.
Dude,
I
shout
yeah,
out. Yeah,
it
we're
is are amazing. What I mean amazing is I got to stay with Marcus. We call him Sandwich. Stayed with him, so I saved money on not having to rent an Airbnb. Bro Sean, World Airsoft, Snowman, Kenny, Rhythm. He's the commander for the red team. All those guys I got to meet. Skinny Bitch Airsoft, Mirage Airsoft, like all the guys and the girls that everybody's like, oh my god. I was just like, hey, what's up, man? My name is Airsoft Sparticus. I'm like, yeah, we heard about you. You're the American. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Like, that was my favorite thing. It's just walking up and they're like, hey, this is the crazy American we told you about. I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, are Americans all like you? I go, only the ones that take this journey. Yeah, they're coming 16 hours this far away. Yeah, they're pretty crazy in the head. And, and if it wasn't for those group of people, I wouldn't be able to do what I do in Burget or even make it to Burget. Like, the day I got home already talks about Burget for 2025. And
hmm
I'm like, man, it's over. My wife is gonna spend the summer in Europe, and I'm gonna, my goal is to make an American in Europe campaign. Like my
mm.
goal, be able to create a YouTube channel with the amount of content I have, where it's like, hey, look at this bloke. He's got a 360 camera. He records a certain way. He tries to recreate a gladiator style approach where it's like, you know, you see my mentality, you see how I'm looking, you know. For me, it's like, okay, you know, and then Real Deal's one of those guys who's like, listen, just do it, bro. Just do it. And I'm like, I know, Jim, but I got a wife and two kids. You know, you make plans and God laughs because I'm, like I said, I'm a homeschooler.
Yeah,
You know, my kids, like, my son has an electric dirt bike. He's 4 years old. He rides it. My
that's
daughter's
awesome.
in my daughter's in dance and swimming. We do wilderness class. My wife does a full curriculum. We built a classroom next door in our storage shed. We just,
Yeah,
you know, wood floors, tile walls, everything. And now it's a classroom. So it's like I tell people, I'm like, I'm trying. But right now, what's taking up my attention is I'm teaching my kids. I'm breaking all those generational curses of listen,
yep,
you know, if you want it, chase it, go catch it,
yep,
like and outwork everybody else. It's not going to take much nowadays to do that, you
yeah,
know. But yeah, you can outwork
that's
everybody
true.
else, you know. And that's one of those things where it's, you know, I'm teaching, you know, like, you know, the guys that even the guys that are older than me, I'm like, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? They're like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm like, yeah, dude, you just got to, you know, play outside the box. Don't be normal and routine. Be
Hmm.
uncomfortable. Be comfortable being uncomfortable, and you'd be surprised what you could do.
Yep.
Again, because of airsoft, I have that mentality.
Always push yourself, man. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude,
But yeah,
so when is this Sweden trip?
so that's at the end of it's the last week and a half of June. So this past
Okay.
year, I took a flight on the 22nd out of Newark Airport, and I arrived on the 23rd early Monday morning.
Mm.
And then early Tuesday, we took the drive up to the northern part of Sweden, which is not far from the border of Sweden and Finland.
Mm.
And, you know, 80, 90-degree days, 30, 40-degree nights. Meanwhile, the sun is still up.
Yeah.
And it was great. I mean, you know, I bathe in the river every day.
Yeah.
And guys were like, "Oh man, how could you? The mosquitoes." I go, "Listen, man, they ain't bothering me. I don't got that kind of sweet blood. This is my kind of stuff." I said,
Yeah.
you should see the mosquitoes in the States." I go, "Florida is pretty good with mosquitoes, man." I
Yeah,
go,
I'm one of those lucky ones as well. Mosquitoes, they fly around me, but
"Yeah,
they don't like me.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
same." You
Yeah.
know, it was a group of us that went to the river to go wash up, and one of them is, you know, one of the guys. You know, most of the guys are from Sweden, and they came out with welts, and I'm like, I don't have anything, and they're using these devices to, like,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like, all I did was just get a little. My wife packed me an Encompass oil soap bar. And that's it. And I was like, all right, man, let's just wash up and get it over with. And I was just looking around. I'm like, okay, you know, guys are like slapping mosquitoes. I'm the only one with a cigar in my mouth, washing up in the river. And I'm like, I don't know about you guys, but this is pretty cool. And they're like, shut up, Spartacus. And I'm like, all right, man, I'll shut up. I'm having too much fun with y'all.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, man, that's cool. Now, I want to ask you about your baseball stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah, how did you grow up as a little kid playing baseball? Were you always
yeah,
into it? Yeah.
yeah. So, well, I played several sports. I did baseball, basketball, tennis, wrestling, and am I missing anything? I think that's it. Yeah. And then I did some martial arts. Like, one of the things in college I went and took my ASVAB. So I said, okay. One of the things they said, you should learn martial arts. So I started doing Filipino boxing.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
So I've always been pretty athletically inclined. You know, if you saw me play a sport, you would think, oh, okay, it came natural. Not at all. Not at all.
You
I
work at it.
was, yeah, I was the smallest guy on the field, you know, 5'7", but I had wide receiver speed, you
Hmm.
know, okay, you know, I grew up in the projects in New York City. So, you know, we weren't always well behaved. So, you
It's a good way to put it.
know, so, you know, I found myself running when I would, you know, do mischief. And if you ran, you know, like the old saying, just don't be the slowest guy.
That's
So it
it.
was like run, hop fences, things like that. So I was, you know, my mom put me in basketball That was the first organized sport my mom put me in was in tennis in the fourth grade, fifth grade. And a buddy of mine who eventually I ended up playing baseball with him in college. He and I went to the championships in New York City in that age group, and we played in Arthur Ashe Stadium. So the athletic world, I'm blessed to say the least, where I have, I don't know, a dozen championships in sports. So
That's cool.
that's where that whole I will eat you alive mentality comes in, where it's
Hmm.
like, man, I played enough sports where in college, if I made it to first and you're talking to me, the first base coaches be like, it's no sense, don't talk to him, he ain't gonna talk to you back. Well, why? He thinks his stuff don't stink. And he's like, no, he's not here to make friends. He's here to win. I was like, yeah, I got that from the coach who taught us that the captains were like, hey, I'm not, my book of friends is closed. I'm here to win. I'm here to get signed. I'm here to do stuff. And that's where I was like, huh. A kid from the projects going to college. 2 days after I graduated high school, I went to college because I was like, hey, they're offering, a free course of 3 credits. And, my mom was like, take it. You have no choice. I go, okay, yes, ma'am, no problem. So I graduated the 26th, and I was in college on the 28th taking my first course.
Damn.
And I was like, whoa, this is a whole different world. And
Hmm.
that that's when I knew I had the freedom to do whatever the hell I wanted, especially when it came to learn and applying myself in any way I wanted. And sports, playing baseball, I played baseball in junior high. Then I made it to my high school team. And when I was in my high school team, that's when those restrictions were thrown where it was like, oh, you're never going to make it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. That was from the coach. And I was like, all right, great. When I made that baseball team in college, which is not a small feat, when I made my college baseball team, I went back to that high school with the jersey on and the whole, bag of gear. And I went to speak to the fitness teacher who I had on my last year in high school, who broke me into the whole fitness mentality of nutrition and everything. His name was Vincent Vaccaro. And he was jacked. He was like this 50-year-old dude who looked like Guile from Street Fighter. He had the whole, top haircut, this white Italian dude, blonde hair, and it was like, abs you could bounce a marble off of. And he was like
Damn.
50, 60 years old. And he had the biggest chip on his shoulders. He could trash talk you till you went home crying. And I was like, okay, I like that mentality. And he was like, come on, kid, you can't do this unless you can back it up, kid. And I'm like, okay. So that's where the whole transition of baseball in high school, and then I did wrestling because of him. He was like, "Listen, why don't you get into a sport where you're really gonna push your physicality?" And I got into wrestling that senior year. And then when I went to college, our coach was making us run 3 miles in 21 minutes or faster 3 times a week. And I was doing it in 18 minutes, 19 minutes,
Yep.
and man, thank God for wrestling because guys are barfing, and I'm over here like, man, this is nothing. This is conditioning. I was like, you do fireman carries on a 6-story building wrestling. Like you want to talk about wanting to puke, make somebody run stairs while you carry a human being.
Tell you what.
You'll fill up a bag, and
Yeah.
that transition for me where it was like, all right, I learned to take baseball more serious because then now in college, I got myself a job in the batting cages. So then I got myself a girlfriend when I was in college, and it was like, if you want to hang out with me, you got to come feed me soft toss in the batting cages. And I had. That's why I was like, if you want to be my girl, you got to come to my job, throw BP, do this, because at that point I wanted to be a pro. So, I learned the inside and outs of baseball. Like I know a lot in airsoft. My level of airsoft knowledge is here. My level of like baseball knowledge is like I've
Way,
forgotten
way higher.
my baseball aptitude is so much so that I can't watch a game. I can't watch a game on TV. Because I'm like, man, why is that moron doing that? He knows this is coming. Why is he doing that? He's a paid professional. He's paid to know this. And people are like, yo, really, G? And I'm like, watch, there's a changeup coming. There's going to be a fastball on the inside. And
Mm.
watch, it's going to slide on the, and the guys are like, dude, and I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, it was political when I was in. You know,
Mm.
I remember going to tryouts and I'm like throwing the ball at 90, hitting the ball all different fields, and it's the 6'2" guys that are getting looked at. Meanwhile, I'm like, dude, I'm breaking the guy's glove, and I'm like, okay, and but that's when I was like, all right,
What
and like
position did you play?
short, second, and third.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
So
I
I
was shortstop as well.
yeah, I had a girlfriend in high school that I would go see in the summer, and she was a town over, about 20 minutes or so from where I lived. I would run there, hang out, and run back. Little did I know that that was working on my arm. And my junior year of high school, all of a sudden I'm throwing the ball from the warning track to home plate without a bounce. And I'm like, huh, I wonder
Bam.
why. Everybody's like, it's because you went to Dominican Republic, dude. And I'm like, listen, the food is great, but it ain't doing things like that. Or else everybody would go down there and shine. And because I was running. And then my senior year, that's when that fitness teacher, Mr. Vaccaro, that's when he connected the dots for me. And all of a sudden, the next day, he's handing me a meal plan, breakfast, lunch, dinner, calorie count, all this and that. I'm like, oh, that's how it's supposed to work. He goes, yeah, kid. He goes, it's not just magic. You throw the coin up in the air and it's landing on head. He goes, no, man, you got to manipulate that. And I was like, oh, okay. He was like, you got to force that hand. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's not just, a whim. It's no, man, pull it by the hair. Now it's yours. And I was like, okay. And I guess that's probably one of the first moments in my life where I'm like, huh, the light bulb went on where it was like, oh, grab the bull by the horns. I get it now. And ever since then, when I did baseball, I did my daughter was born when I was 33. So I played baseball from 5 years old till 33.
Wow.
So I've seen, I saw it, I've played games where we knocked guys down on their rankings and they never got signed because they stayed on the mound a little longer than they should have. And then I've played with guys where I'm like, hey, how do you feel to be in the Yankee bullpen? And they're like, oh, this, and that. And I'm like, man, that's great. Um, I don't think I'll have regrets about not making it because I went further than, I mean, I was getting paid to coach and I went to Florida for 13 years. By the age of 33, I was already into my 13th consecutive year of flying to Florida for spring training, whether it was coaching or playing. And it was like, you know, and people, oh, you never signed a pro contract. Yeah, but I've got some memories that, those last 7 seconds of my life, I'm going to remember.
That's
I hit
cool.
this, I hit that guy. I was in the bleachers when I spoke to that guy who remembered me. I made friends. My kids play baseball now, and I stopped playing baseball, but now I coach my kids. And now it's like, now the parents in the neighborhood, they're like, oh, the homeschool father, he's the best. He's one of the best coaches. And I'm like, yeah, man, I did camps for the big leagues to teach kids. I know it's not about being competitive. It's about keeping them in, making it as fun as possible. And that's the thing for me for airsoft too. I guess
Hmm.
that's the transfer where it's like I love baseball till this day. I'm like, listen, it shouldn't be the only sport kids play. However, it does reveal character. It does not build character. Character is built at home. Mommy and daddy build character.
Mm.
Sports just reveals it. Sports just same thing with airsoft, like what you were saying when people are at work or people on the field and they want to start whining and complaining. I'm like, dude, just eat the suck
Yeah.
and just shut
Embrace
up.
it. Yep.
Yeah, just embrace it
Yeah.
because it's gonna be there anyway. Be that crazy person who's like, man, this guy's nuts. He's actually having a good time.
Yeah. Get
Yeah, man.
psyched up about it. Get psyched up about the suck because it's like when you go to work out, you go to exercise, or when I was on, I played football, wrestling, baseball, and on baseball I was on a traveling team, and it when practice is about to start, you get those butterflies because your coach is hard as shit. And
Yeah,
I thought football practice was hard until I started wrestling because I played
yeah,
football. I started football when I was in fourth grade, and I didn't start wrestling until I was in eighth. And the first practice I went to, I was like, "Holy shit!" And
yep,
this was in
yep.
Northeast Ohio, and where the wrestling program was pretty important. Okay, like
Yeah,
it
that's
was
wrestling
it was big
country.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
Yeah. So our coach was like a 5-time, national state champion, national champion. Like he was hard as shit, bro. Like it really prepared me for the Marine Corps. And I was like, okay, that's practice. But yeah, you get those butterflies before practice because you know it's going to be hard. And you got to
Yeah,
psych yourself up,
yeah,
like you got to, okay, here we go, let's go.
yeah,
And that same thing. If you know something's going to be hard, just there's no point in complaining about it because then you're going into you're entering it with the mindset of losing. Like you're
yeah.
already behind. Like don't no play to win. Don't play to not lose. Okay, like it's
Exactly.
totally different. You know.
Yeah, it's funny you used to say that because our conditioning coach, his name was Dan Miller. And he was a grunt. He was a Marine, and he was also a firefighter. And it was like the first time he started conditioning us. I was like, man, what the hell did I get myself into? And like we had a brand new high school that was built that I think it's like 200,000 square feet, like 5 or 6 floors. The hallways, they're four wings. So northeast, south, and it was like, they were shaped as an H. Where in the middle they would meet. Man, the fireman carries. He would put us each on the opposite side, so you couldn't see what the other line, how much they advanced. You just knew you had to put out because you don't know if you're winning or losing.
Oh
Yeah, and it was just like, man. So it was like it was one of those optical illusions where it's no matter what you did, you put out
yeah.
100. It was like, and when I got to college, first thing the coach says when we're in the office, he was like, he looked at me and my friend Henry. He was like, which one of you two is fastest or faster? And Henry's like, him. And Coach Palumbo was like, why did he point at you so fast? Are you that fast? I'm like, I'm all right. Next day I go back to college, and lo and behold, my former captain in high school, now captain in that team in college. And coach was like, hey, listen, come here, Canelo. And I'm like, yes, coach. And he goes, if somebody asks you if you're fast and you're fast as shit, you let them know that you're the fastest man in the room. Okay? I go, okay, yes, coach. He goes, I also heard you wrestled. And I go, I delved in it a little bit my senior year to get physical. He goes, good, you're going to need it because in this program in the spring, when we first come back from winter break, we have Hell Week. And I was like, what's that? And he goes, do 7 days of not touching a baseball, a glove, or a bat. And we bring you in for 3 hours a day. Man, oh man. Stairs. We would always start 3 miles, 21 minutes or faster. If anyone on the squad finished after, everybody started all over again. Yeah. And from there, I remember in college, they would have the Marine Corps recruiter, Navy, and Army would come in and watch us. And they start talking to us because our coach was like, there's the cream of the crop, gentlemen. If you want to recruit anybody, my guys are pretty strong. And, we had to sit in the front in every class. We needed a 3.0 or higher, where in NCAA you need a 2.0. And our coach was like, nope, you need 3.0. So eventually we ended up getting awards for our community service, our grades, and our historical baseball record setting seasons that we had. And it all started when I stepped foot into that gym in high school for wrestling, where it was like this guy, Dan Miller, was just wide. And I was like, Jesus, look at this gorilla of a man. And I remember one time our high school coach, Bruce Mantrom, brought in a veteran wrestler who ended up going, I think, to like Syracuse or something like that. And that dude was huge. Meanwhile, Dan Miller, his experience was Marine Corps. This guy held his own against a seasoned college wrestler. And we were just looking at everybody like, man, I don't want to hear shit. The Marine Corps makes you into a beast because this guy's hanging in with a seasoned college wrestler who was just as big as him. Like these, we were watching and we had to back up because these guys are like expanding the ring, and I was like, holy crap! All right, and that's where that when Bruce Mantron showed us that and had those two guys do an exhibition, we bought into the program. Where I was like, okay, we're following what Dan Miller's saying. and how he's gonna condition us because holy crap, look what he's doing. He's
Yeah.
keeping up with this guy who, we all know the conditioning in wrestling is insane.
Right.
Just making weight is insane.
Oh, bro. Yes.
And from there on, when I went to college, it was like at college I had 7% body fat at like 175 pounds, and you know, I'd look at guys who, I'd come back to the neighborhood, guys like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, I run circles around you, man. Like
Right.
this is, and then when we would play people, when we would play teams, it was one of those things where it's like, leading the nation in triples, and my first college hit was I beat out a single from to third base. The guy took his time. He looked up. I was already halfway up the line, and
Damn.
I was like, okay. And my coach was, I got the game ball. I have the ball with me.
That's
So
awesome. That's
I was like,
fast.
and I was like, and then like I said, it's that mentality that it's gonna suck. You might as well just laugh at it. You gotta confuse life where life is like, hey, I'm gonna keep you down on the ground. And you just gotta look at life and laugh and be like, well, I guess we're gonna fight on the ground then. And that's just the mentality.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, man, like I hate to be cliche, but that Rocky speech about, life will hit you like a brick and keep you there as long as you let it. Like if you don't learn that fast, it's gonna be late. And it's one of those things like baseball, airsoft, wrestling, sports, all that is like taught me, hey, you know, like Mike Tyson said, we all have a plan until we get punched in the face. All right, well, expect to get punched in the face.
Hmm.
If you expect when you get into a fight to get punched in the face, when you get punched in the face, it's not a surprise. You're like, oh yeah, that's what that feels like. Okay, let's go.
Right.
Like, okay, that's what that feels like. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky. I've been lucky enough that I've had an athletic life where I'm like, okay, I'm happy with this. I've traveled the world. I've won championships. I have stories from I still have stories. My wife was like, give me a story. I'm like, oh, I remember this one time, and she was like, what? And I'm like, yeah. That dude tried to break you know pool sticks over my head because I swindled him out of $160 after losing $80. And this guy, and hopefully he listens to this podcast because he has the highest score in SEAL sniper school, and I hustled him out of money.
Oh
boy,
shit.
boy, was that a hard lesson. I had two or three
How
full.
did you meet this guy?
So I was in Virginia, and I did this course called Extreme SEAL Experience. And that course was taught by a Navy SEAL commander who happens to be the father of a prominent tier one famous Instagram influencer who I won't name just because I don't want people to know, but people follow this guy, and his dad was the one running the course. And I went in May, and in May we did things like that was the first time I ever learned how to shoot a rifle. That was the first time I fast roped, rope
Oh yeah.
propelled, all that stuff. Helo casted into the Chesapeake. So they asked the group from May because we did so well. Hey, would you want to come back for an October course? Mind you, this is us paying out of pocket. The October course included surf immersion and surf passage, helo casting into the Atlantic, and we're staying on in a beach house in Va Beach. And that was,
So
I
what's
mean,
surf emergent? What'd you say? Those first two?
so
What is that?
sur- surf immersion is the new way of saying surf torture, where you're locking arms, and you know how you see the
Oh,
buds videos of everybody laying on the
yeah,
water.
yeah.
That wave
And you
comes,
just let the wave
and the
you
guy
get tortured by the
water.
waves. Yeah.
That that's that's my mentality from high school and into college led me to doing that in Virginia. Those guys are the sole reason why I know I have no limitation. Physically, I know that, and it sounds cliche or it might sound like a chip on my shoulder. I know for a fact that in many rooms that I enter, I'm the toughest person in the room. Simply because a real life SEAL cadre threw us into the Atlantic, made us surf torture, where it's like you lock hands with another human being, you lay on the sand,
Mm-hmm.
That water, and this was after 3 days of rain. So Mother Earth was like, yeah, yeah, okay.
We're gonna
And
give
she
it
was
to you.
those waves were pounding in. And the thing is, the first 15 minutes, they stood us right at the edge of the beach, water coming to our feet just ever so slightly, just watching those waves roar, the swells, 15, 20-foot swells. And we're just like, you know, but this was a course intended for those who wanted to take the next step and try to be a soft or try to be an operator. This is a course you can pay for where they would prepare you. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the preparations was literally throw you into some of the evolutions that you would see in real life if you went to any kind of selection. Like I have friends who went to courses that I went with, and they're tier operators. The one guy became a ranger, another guy was Delta. I know two or three other guys became SEALs. You know,
That's cool.
and we had active duty SEALs as part of the cadre teaching us. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we're staying at a beach house in Virginia Beach, and everybody's drinking, having fun, doing this, doing that. Now it's 2 days, 2 or 3 days after we got there, so we already endured 48 hours of no sleep. Now it was downtime, and the 48 hours was like the hardest thing I ever done in my life was surf passage. Where you get a Zodiac, and we had the French Commando Zodiacs. We didn't have the IBS, where it's like the
What's the
small,
difference?
the ones that they use in Coronado are smaller and they're lighter. The French Commando are the actual operational boats. Yeah, those are heavier. And I was the squad leader of the young guys, and we went out on the first one. It was like we're paddling, and we broke through the. And this was after 3 years of rain. We break through the surf passage, and we're out into the ocean, and we're like, yeah, we're watching the older guys just getting slammed. That boat is just. All the guys are just flying out like sprinkles off of a freaking cake, and I'm like, man, look at those chumps. After we came in, we rolled the waves down, and I'm like the New Yorker with the chip on my shoulder, like, hey, let's just sing a song. And we start singing Journey. Just and we're singing all of a sudden out of nowhere, one of the most grizzled, seasoned SEALs. Shut the hell up. Get your ass in the water. Get back out here. Become some sugar cookies. That's when I knew the stuff was real. And it was and his name was Bezic. Scott Bezic, I think his full name, and he's one of the guys that implemented and helped introduce the sniper training for SEALs.
Mm-hmm.
And nicest guy in the world. You would not know if you passed him in the street, you would not know. But man, when we got him upset, and he didn't even get upset, he just turned it up a little. Man, we went into the ocean. He was all right. Now get in. I want to see every inch of you covered in sand. Get some. He was like, I want to see some delicious sugar cookies. You want to go ahead and sing while I'm trying to teach you? And then for the next 19 tries, we did not make it past the surf. That that ocean was just flipping us, throwing us, doing this, doing that. He goes, "Serves you damn right." Who make what? And he was like, "What makes you think you conquer her?" She just let you get a taste. How's that feel? And it was like, holy shit, man. Like, I still remember the number. 19 times we tried to break the surf passage to go into the ocean, and we got our shit handed to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, humbling experience. And
Right.
you succeed, shut up. And
Telling
it
you
was like,
what, man.
and that was, I mean, that experience was amazing, man. I mean, those guys, I still talk to Ryan. He was the one that I hassled him. I hustled him out of money. We were playing billiards. We were playing eight ball
Mm.
at the beach house in Val Beach. And I was like, all right, you know, let's play another round. He's like, all right, great. I already lost like $80. And I
Yeah.
was like, double or nothing. But this time nine ball. Mind you, I grew up in the projects where we had a boys and girls club, and they had a billiard table there. So
Oh
I'm like, all
shit.
right. I'm like, okay, let's
So
wheel
you
them in.
you quote unquote lost. Okay, okay, I got you.
and he was like, no problem. He's like, I'm breaking. I go, yeah, go ahead. He broke. He sunk one in. He missed the next shot. I cleaned the table on the next turn. And when I mean I cleaned the table on the next turn, I was rotate. I was moving the ball around to hit the next ball, retrieving the ball with
Did you
backspin.
did you at least make it look like you were like, oh, that was a good, lucky shot?
Oh, no,
No.
I
Oh shit. You're like, fuck you, bitch. All right.
well, it was one of those things where it was like, remember this guy at that time. I don't know if he holds it anymore, and he also, I think he might have retired. He retired being part of the cadre that teaches and trains in Coronado. But at that time, he had one of the highest scores ever in SEAL Sniper School. And this is a guy from Alabama or Arkansas, a country boy who grew up, slinging lead at pest control.
Yeah.
And I'm over here like, okay, I can either act relaxed or I can give him the New York City hustle and just fucking give it to him. And I was just like, boom, 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 boom. He was just like, you son of a bitch. And I just saw him muscle up on the pool sticks. And I was like, oh shit. And bam, he took a swing and I just ducked. And I'm running around the pool table, the billiards table. He's like, I'm gonna pay you, but I'm gonna whip your ass too. Like, holy shit. And I was like, stop. This is a great story. You owe me money, but don't hurt me. And the next morning, senior chief was like, now what the hell happened to the pool table and the pool sticks? And another guy, Lalo Roberti, he's like, gee, I hear something happened between you and Temp. And I was like, no, nothing happened between. He's like, uh-huh. Word is you hustled the man out of money. And I go, yep. And he goes, what the hell you doing hustling a SEAL, man? So if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Isn't that what you guys told me? And they started laughing. And he looked at me, he was like, you'll be all right. Don't worry about it. I'll let Senior know. And I was fine. At the end of the day, Senior started laughing. He was like, I heard you hustled one of my guys. I was like, yes, sir. He goes, good shit, young man. I go, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
That's man. But that was like what made me like, okay, if I can endure getting thrown into the Chesapeake after 3 or 4 days of rain, the more you swim, the colder it is. If I can, like the surf passage alone, eventually we had a readiness drill where we had an actual mission and we had to, paddle 8 miles
Whoa.
and circumvent the ocean and go a certain way into Virginia Beach and Chesapeake and all that.
Yeah.
And, I'm getting questioned on leadership. Like other guys who have the same mentality, and I'm like recalling the map by memory. I'm like, no, that's wrong. We're going this way. Oh yeah, but I go, it's fine with me. You can go that way if you want. We're gonna win. We're going that way. And I'm recalling the story to Senior. He's like, is that right? Is that what you said? I'm like, yeah. I go, I know when I'm right. And that's where that whole mentality was like, he was the first person ever in my life to say, if someone's in your life not to benefit you, they don't belong in your life. I was like, huh, isn't that selfish? He goes, yes, it's very selfish. But in order for them to benefit you, you have to be able to benefit them. And if they pull you down, you can't pull them up. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh shit, this operator mentality, there's something to it.
Yeah.
We left that course with letters of recommendation. So whoever wanted to go and do stuff, you have a letter of recommendation from a 24-year, up in the chain, senior chief who,
Yeah.
taught. And then you had guys like we had
Dude, that's
guys.
awesome.
Yeah, we had guys who were actually on the ground for lone survivors. So I have let me see, where's my patch? Oh, like one of the things.
Well, that mentality he was teaching you too is this people that maybe never heard of it, but or didn't pay attention when they get on an airplane. But when they give the instructions on the airplane, they say put your own mask on first. Like if you're a parent and you have a child with you or something like that, always put your own mask on first. And it sounds selfish, but it's not. It's actually it's not self-serving. So
No,
you can't help someone if you're passed out, if you're dead. So it is you got to take care of yourself first to be able to help somebody else. And that
absolutely, and
it's an important lesson in life.
yeah, it's the most selfish, selfless thing you could do.
Well, a lot of
Yeah,
people confuse arrogance and confidence. And I think, confidence comes from experience.
Yeah.
And arrogance comes from a low self-image. You're trying
Yeah.
to puff yourself up more than what you are. So, these operators, these guys, and that's like what you went through. One of the biggest differences I've seen between guys that, let's say, go to college instead of going to military, if they don't have some kind of experience, or not everyone that goes into college. I'm just saying, like, the guys, you can really tell a difference when you, as a man, when you can prove yourself to yourself.
Yes.
That is a really
Yeah.
important rite of passage to go
Yeah.
through, whether it's at 15 or at 20 or whatever. If you can go through something like that, that you get this internal confidence, like, okay, I know I can handle that. I'm good. Like, you stop trying to prove yourself to everybody. Those guys in high school that are always starting fights, they run their mouth constantly. And it's like, dude, that, I mean, when you're a teenager, you don't really know, but it comes from a low self-image.
Yeah.
It's insecurity.
I dealt with when I was in high school, I got bullied. When I was in junior high, I
Same,
got bullied by those
same.
guys.
Yeah.
And it was like when I got to college, all of a sudden I have a coach who's telling us what to read, how to think, how to act. Don't do this, don't do that. If you wear my hat from my team backwards and I find you in a gas station pumping gas, you're off my squad. Big East rules. All of a sudden I go to Virginia and these guys are talking a certain way, acting a certain way. Like that's one of the big reasons why if you ask Jake, who has the real deal airsoft, he's like, dude, I fuck with you because of that. He goes, your mentality alone. Like, they're guys when I play with them, and they know who they are. They watch your podcast, and they know Spartacus shows up. All of a sudden, the mood changes, and I'm like, yeah, dude, because I don't give a shit about what you've got to prove. Follow me. I always tell everybody, hey, you want to do a little, what do they call it? I said, you want to do a little sneaky, sneaky, and everybody's like, what? I was like, come with me, and I'm like, keep up. Don't make a sound. Noise control, like noise discipline and
Mm-hmm.
light discipline. Like when you play with me in Burget, this second time in Burget, I was a lot more active. And these are guys running squads that they've been together for like 20 years. And now I'm like, okay, the first time I was here, I was a little shy. Now I'm like, as a medic, I'm directing fire. I'm saying doing this, do that, do that. And all of a sudden in the middle of Burget, I have a solo mission. When in the very beginning of Burget, you're told the swim buddy concept, where it's like, don't do shit without your swim buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the cadre, the commander's like, hey, you want a solo mission? And I'm like looking around, like, what happened to the swim buddy concept? And they're like, yeah, you don't need one. And I go, okay, great, yeah, sure, let's do this. And they're like, yeah, we knew you weren't gonna say no. I'm like, well, I mean, shit, it's aim high or die low. Like, what do you want me to do?
And it sounds fun. What is it? Let's go.
Yeah, that's what that. And the thing is, like, that mentality will get you far because there's not really much competition in that mentality. Like the playing field at that level. First off, anybody you meet at that level of a playing field, that's an ally. Those people will turn around and be like, "Can I come for the ride too?" And you're like, "Well, shit, yeah, man." The more that think like me, if you're a crazy mofo, come on, dude. Come on, man. Let it be like the flight of the bumblebee, like famous freaking scene. Let it happen. Like all those Blackhawks, let it happen. Once you get yourself in that mentality and you find people with the same mentality, dude, it's a force of nature. And it's like you find yourselves having fun with that dark humor. And it's like, okay, this like nothing's gonna bring this vibe, this nirvana down. We're all the same. We're all
Mm-hmm.
thinking the same. We all know the suck factor is high, so we got to make fun of it and be like, "Hey, man, you all right? You think you want your little pacifier?" And guys like, shut up, dude. Yeah, keep walking. And we're like, "All right," but we know that's him checking on us.
Yeah.
Like that's checking on us. We know he knows, he might be distracting himself by being humorous. He's over here during the suck too. And it's like, and that's where all of that training where it's like, you know, and I get told constantly all the time, hey Spartacus, you gotta talk about that. You can't be ashamed of that. And I finally, now that I'm older and I'm a dad, I'm like, you know what? I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. Guys are like, yeah, but you were never in. No, but I paid for that shit. I paid for
Yeah.
that training. Let me tell you, man. Let
Yeah.
me tell you, you know, it was eye opening, and till this day, I walk on the field. I know for a fact. It's not that I have a chip on my shoulder that hasn't been earned. I walk on the field. I know, okay, I'm a certain level of tough and attitude. for a reason. Like, you give me a mission, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna shoot the shit. I get along with almost every single service member I've ever met because I can relate. Where it's like, yeah, man. First of all, I praise you for being in, doing your time, doing what you did. Second off, I like to think I'm just as crazy as you are. I'm just a civvy.
Second of all, did you see these nuts?
Yeah, and that's the humor where it's like, shit, yeah, man. Where I'm like the guy swinging pool sticks at my head. He says hi to me all the time. When I'm like,
Right.
I see what he, hey, Ryan. He goes, what's going on, brother? And I'm like, shit, yeah. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, hey, you tell your daughters about that story about that New Yorker you met. And he's like, fuck you. I'm like, yeah, awesome, yeah. Not every day you get to say that shit. Like, guys watch TV shows about that. I'm like, it's not every day you get to say, hey, I
That's
hustled the
cool,
guy.
man.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
a very, yeah, some cool experiences.
and they were nice enough where I reached out to them. I'm like, listen, I'm trying to revamp my website, do patchwork and whatnot. Can I use your patch from Team Two, from Lone Survivor? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make it on my website so that when you purchase the patch, that specific purchase is going to a veteran thing. And that's where this patch came out. And like, this is something that not many people in the world have. Like, no one in Airsoft has this unless I gave it to them as a token of appreciation
War
for sharing.
pigs.
Yeah, and this is, if you've ever seen the movie, I've read the book and seen the movie, Lone Survivor. This is
Yeah.
their patch. So, and
Oh, okay.
I got the blessing. I haven't sold it at all yet. I haven't put it on my website that I'm still trying to finish up.
Yeah.
I've given it to certain people in Airsoft. When I asked you for your address, this is in it with my whole patch collection, and then the tallow.
Oh,
This
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. What's up with that? How did you, yeah, what's going on with that?
So you got the beef tallow here,
Yeah.
and and I'm sure you've have you heard of tallow before?
I've heard the word, but I don't know what it is. Is it like a
So
lotion or something?
so it's beef fat that you might see a drip or two because my shed is a little warm. I turned off the AC so you don't get any background music.
Yeah.
Um, this is basically the version of lard from cows you cook with.
Yeah.
So it's great for you. You can put it on your skin. It's great for your skin. I've created
Like
some beef
lotion.
tallow.
Yeah.
You can deep fry. You can cook eggs with it. It's what I write. This is a supplement. This is a grass fed cooking and baking fat supplement. So you can bake, fry, cook. If it uses butter or seed oils, because one of the things that I also try to show people in airsoft is because of my background and being so physical and athlete, paying attention to nutrition. This is one of the things I took to Burget and I was cooking with, and guys were facing, 5 days in the bush, you're gonna get swelling. I didn't get any of that. I got my feet were getting a little sore,
Yeah.
and I did an old baseball trick, nastiest shit you could do in the world, but it works. And they were like, "Yo, what are you doing for your blisters?" I said, "I don't have blisters," and they're like, "How? You have hiking sneakers. We have standard issue Swedish military boots." And I go, "Well, I pee on my feet," and they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah." I go, "Yep." And they're like, "No." And I go, "Listen, in the military in America, they do that shit all the time." I
Well,
said,
not
"In
only that,
base,
it prevents or gets rid of athlete's foot as well. So like
yeah,
fungus,
yeah."
like if you pee on your feet, yeah, yep.
And that's what one of those things where guys are like, oh, and my friends are like, yo, dude, you gotta talk about shit like that.
Yeah.
You do milsims for days, and you come out like I come out the same way I went in, and that's one of the things. And then you have
That's one of the least gross things you can do, to be honest, because like
yeah,
it's really not like it doesn't take a lot of effort and it's not that gross. So,
no,
and it
I mean,
prevents a lot of, yeah.
and you don't have to sit in it. Like like I was in the river. I'm like, all right, pee on one foot, pee on another foot. I waited like 5 minutes, and I washed up in the river.
Yeah.
It's just a short exposure, and people are like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Listen,
Well,
it
the stuff
beats."
that your skin needs in your feet when you do that, it soaks in really, really fast.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
super fast. The way our skin absorbs stuff. Yeah.
I told that to the commander of the group of our red team, Rhythm. And he was like, "Oh yeah, we do that in the German military." I go, "Ah,
Yeah.
you see?" Because the other guy was standing next to me. He was like, "Are you serious? You're pulling my tail?" I go, "No, man. I'm not trying to make you piss on your feet for the laugh of it." I
That
go,
would be funny
That's
though.
great.
That would
Yeah,
be funny.
I'm like, it's hilarious. Just let me know. I said, but it actually works. So you
Yeah.
have the tallow, and then I created something called battle salve. If I can get it open. Oh, there we go. And it's with beef tallow, frankincense, uh, plantain flour, comfrey flour, and calendula flour. This will eliminate swelling, bleeding, stiffness. When you get the BB welts, you put this on, and 2 or 3 days, the bloody BB welts, they're gone. Because
Mm,
there's nobody really approaching that market of airsoft where it's like, hey, um, I remember there used to be this girl, P90 girl. She used to put this lotion, but then I look at the ingredients for the lotion. I'm like, man, that shit's poison. Like in today's day and age, the amount of stuff they put in things, our skin's an organ, and here we are getting it shot up with these plastic BBs
yeah.
at a ridiculous speed. It's gonna cause trauma. You have
Yeah.
guys like Real Deal, guys like my friend Christian from Sweden who was there. He did a 300 and something kilometer bike race a week before going to Burget, and he was like, "My knee is hurting." I go, "Dude, you did a fucking 300. I said, you did a 300-mile bike race, bro. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think is gonna happen before you go out into the wilderness for 6 days?" I go, "Here, put my battle salve on and let me know what you think." By the end of the weekend, he was like, "Dude, I forgot that I had knee problems,"
Mm.
and I was like, "So this is gonna be in your care
Oh, dude,
package."
thank you, man.
And there's another one uh, that's a
Speaking
black
of
one.
the beef tallow too, back in the day, I don't know when it started, maybe the 60s or 70s, but we were all lied to about lard, okay? Like
Yep,
animal fat and all that kind of stuff. We were 100% lied to.
yep,
And they said, "Oh, it's so bad for you, cholesterol and blah blah blah. You're going to get fat if you eat fat." And look at what's happened now. We got away from that kind of old school cooking, right? And everyone's eating processed food and they're fat as fuck and
absolutely.
unhealthy. And they're like, even to this day, even like if you ask a 25-year-old today, "Hey, you want to cook with some lard?" They'd be like, "Oh my God, no."
Yeah. If people saw when so if you look at some of my stuff on Instagram, you'll see that I'm eating liver, steak, eggs.
Oh yeah,
I have a
carnivore
chicken.
thing.
I have a
Yeah,
chicken coop in my yard, and my
nice,
chicken my chickens give me a dozen eggs every day. Every
yeah,
other day, they give me about 2 dozen eggs.
nice.
Um, I have in-laws who question, even though I've been a beacon of like, hey, look, I'm approaching 40. I went for example, this morning I went to the gym with a colleague of mine from work, and we were doing the rowing machine.
Mm,
Listen, I don't do cardio. He goes, "Why not?" I go, "Well, because that's just you attacking your muscles. You don't want to do 20, 30, 40-minute cardio. It does nothing for your body except deplete your muscles of what they need to actually do." I go, "Your eating is actually going to help develop your physique and your stamina right there. So let's do the rowing machine." So we're doing the rowing machine. And I look over at him like 5 minutes later. And he's like, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is what your body needs, not running on a hard surface with a shoe that isn't made for us."
the
You know,
Marine Corps would disagree with you, sir. Okay,
I know,
run in
no,
combat boots for 12 miles on pavement and shut your mouth and like it.
that the one thing that I was happy about that course in Virginia is that we were running on the beach.
Oh, that, yeah. Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that is
But
rough.
I live about 45 minutes or so away from like one of the nicest beaches you can go to in the tri-state area in New York, Long Beach. And I was going there with, you know, BDUs on, with hiking boots on, and just running the beach, getting ready for Virginia, just running. And then, and the lifeguards got to know me, and they're like, "Yo, that's not easy, bro." And I'm like, "I know, that's why I'm doing this shit now, because I don't want to be introduced to this in Virginia." And lo and behold, we're in Virginia, and he was like, "All right, 3 mile run on the beach." I was like, damn. And guys were like, holy shit. I'm like, and that's where it's like, listen, like I was telling my coworker Ed this morning, I'm like, if you do the right thing, you can be physically dominating. Like this book I read from Grant Cardone, he was like, I think it's called the 10x rule or Celebrity Soul. I forget which one. He was like, if competition is healthy, domination is immunity. And I was like,
Mm,
yup. I'm like, yup. If you can dominate the shit out of something, you're immune to anything around it.
that's cool.
That's where the beef tallow. Everybody's like, oh yeah, but this, but that. No, listen. I have a Greek wife. I invested in Greek olive oil. I went to olive oil competitions, legitimate, internationally ranked olive oil competitions to invest in olive oil companies, to find an olive oil company who's legit, who I can invest some money in and grow with. And my mind was blown away. Like, where are you? Are you in here?
That's crazy, bro.
Like
Okay.
mind was blown away. See, I can just grab. First of all, this is my first ever 50 cal shot I ever took, and it was in Val Beach. And that
Ooh,
was,
nice.
and my mind was blown away because you got like this book, Extra Virginity, talks about how olive oil that you buy in the shelf is not the same. It's what the Italians call Lopante oil, which is
I've
lamp
heard of
oil.
that, but I don't know. Yeah. So what is it? What's the difference?
So, so the difference is, so olive oil, when you get legitimate olive oil, it has to be pulled from the tree. The olives have to be pulled from the tree, and they have to be stone pressed. So there's no temperature whatsoever. A cold press, they call it. The old ways was a stone wheel pressing on the fruit, getting the juice out. It has to be done within the first 24 hours, or you no longer are in the category of it being healthy for you.
Hmm.
Now it could be rancid. The Italians, there was a big uh, the Italian mafia had a big thing where they were selling lamp oil. They call it Lepante, which was not good. It was crude oil, lubricant. I would bet my money that 90%, 95% of the olive oil that we buy on store shelves, they're they're good for lubricating machinery. They're
Oh
not
my
good for,
God.
yeah, and people are like, "Oh my God, but how?" And I'm like, "Listen, stop. I'm not trying to scare you.
No.
I went to olive oil competitions where I would literally sit down in panels of judges explaining what makes it healthy. Like olive oil, a legit shot glass of olive oil is as strong as maybe 10 ibuprofens. And it doesn't
It
destroy your
it
liver.
counters it counters inflammation.
Yeah, it's an anti-inflammatory.
What?
Yeah, it has the same properties as acetaminophen. But the difference is they have to be pressed within 24 hours
Hmm.
and it has to be cold pressed. And olive oil can never, ever be introduced to heat for it to keep its properties.
So what these people cooking and all that stuff, they say, "Oh yeah, put some olive oil in the pan," and they freaking
No. I went to the
really.
and
That's crazy, bro.
in one of the competitions, there was this lady, I forget from where. I want to say it was the Czech Republic. She came out with this laboratory analysis of her olive oil, and she's the one that had olive oil that was stronger than 10 ibuprofens combined.
Whoa.
And it was like, holy shit. And she was giving taste samples, little tiny cups like what you get at the dentist, even smaller.
Yeah.
When that olive oil was as green as grass.
Mm.
And when you smelled it, it was spicy. When you drink it, it burned on the way down. And you're like, this is not what's on the shelf. This
Yeah.
is not, oh, this is not what's on the shelf. And most of them are like, well, we don't sell to major corporations. You have to get it from our websites or from the restaurants we deal with. And I went to Greece with my wife for a honeymoon, and we spent 3 weeks in the south of Greece. I stood on the mountains where Leonidas stood on, and I went to a tavern, and the guy's like, "Yeah, I own 500 hectares of olive farm." And I go, "Great. Do you sell it?" He goes, "No, we don't sell our olive oil to anybody. We keep it." And I was like, "Well, okay. How do you expect to have that kind of olive oil on your table, you know, 5,000 miles away if this guy isn't even getting rid of it because he knows the worth? He sells it to the region. He makes his money selling it to the region. If you want that olive oil, you got
Keeps
to
it
go.
local.
Yeah, you got to go to Spain to the countryside, to Turkey to the countryside, Italy to the countryside, and it's only Italy just recently because
Mm,
the government had to interfere because, like I said, in this book, extra virginity, it explains the whole controversy where it was like it got discovered because olive oil farmers were being tested. Their actual composition of the olive oil was being tested, and it was coming out where it was like, okay, guys, hold on, folks, something's off. This isn't giving numbers that it should. It's giving numbers kind of like industrial lubricant. And it's like, okay, well, that's what's on the shelf. Like
mm.
95% of olive oil on the shelf nowadays is industrial lubricant.
Do we have an option here in the States? Like, can we go to a local grocery store, like a Whole Foods even or whatever, and is there any brand of olive oil that we can get in our local stores, or do we have to find it? Like, what brand should we look for?
I
What do you
mean,
guys use?
we use beef tallow
Oh, okay.
and we're Greek. My wife is Greek. Like my in-laws, my father-in-law is a cancer survivor, heart attack survivor,
Yeah.
3 heart attacks, cancer, big accident. And I'm like, here, have some tallow. Like my sister-in-law's like, I haven't sold this, but I also make a 16, a 32, and I'm starting to make a large 1 gallon. And it's like, here, use this. Let me know how you feel. And people are like, oh my God. I'm like, listen, put it in a small coffee cup, whip it with like a coffee espresso maker, whip the hell out of it, put it on your skin. Now you have beef tallow lotion, which is ridiculous. The vitamin K that you see them smear on babies when they're born, which you shouldn't, you put this, and it's the same vitamin K. It's got B12, B13. So beef tallow, you know, fat made, purified cow fat. So
Yeah.
I purify 3 different times. I slow cook it 3 times, which purifies it, and then I strain it with non-bleached organic cotton strainers. This stuff will literally, studies have proven it lubricates your neurological system that connects between your brain and your body. Like it literally lubricates your brain. It does.
Mm,
We were all told olive oil does. Like that famous movie, The Family with Michelle Pfeiffer, where she was like, "Don't eat butter. You gotta eat olive oil. Olive oil lubricates the body." Yeah, if it's the real shit that Giuseppe just pressed off out of his trees a day ago or
yeah.
less, not using any kind of heat. You cook your food, you take it off, you let your food cool down just a hair. It doesn't have to be hot, and then you pour your olive oil on. That's how you eat and consume olive oil.
Wow.
Not heated or fried. No, man. When you go to Greece, they're putting stuff on a Spitfire, rotating, roasting on fire. They're not cooking, and even now, there's a dilemma in Greece where they're using soybean oil. It's like, listen, any any oil that comes from a seed is just not good for you
Yeah.
unless you know how to shop. When it comes to olive oil, my one suggestion is go to a local farmers market.
Mm,
You're absolutely gonna find more wholesome ingredients and more wholesome network and connections because they're gonna turn around and say, okay, Johnny over there knows a farmer from California. His
hmm.
farm produces because we have legitimate organic olive groves in California, in Texas, where they produce real olive oil.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna find them at like if even if you go to like Trader Joe's, you're like, okay, they might have 1 or 2 emblems, but they need to have a whole plethora of like, hey, there's 4 different emblems that suggest this is the real thing. And even then, olive oil by the next season should have
Yeah.
already been. So
Already gone.
if you have an olive oil and it says, hey, the season for olive oil in Greece is between like August and October.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, like we're about to approach harvest season now in Greece. If so, right now, 2023's harvest should already been consumed.
Hmm.
If it's not consumed, Lapante, lamp oil, put it in a lamp, light up the night. And then when you tell yourself that, you're like, shit, dude, that's fucking industrial lubricant.
Mm,
Yeah, that's what they're feeding you. Like, come on, man. There's some chicken nugget recipes out there that have actual fucking cardboard. Like, it's easy to make chicken nuggets, man. Put it in a processor, pulse it, add everything you have to add, mold it, and then fry it in some beef tallow or some lard.
Yeah.
McDonald's used to do their French fries in beef tallow until the 60s. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, have you seen pictures of what like a McDonald's staff looked like in the 50s and 60s before they switched over to seed oil? Everybody was lean and smiling.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, okay, something changed. And it was like, we make fun of it like in the carnivore or in the, I call it corrected eating in the areas of where people are correcting the way they're eating. We
Yeah.
make fun of it. We're like the American food pyramid should be flipped,
Yep.
where it's like carbs and vegetables. And I'm gonna get a lot of heat for it. I don't touch vegetables. And hear me out. In high school, we used to carb load for baseball,
Yeah.
and I
Same.
used to feel like a lethargic animal.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, now I'm playing airsoft 5 years or so now. My daughter's 6, yeah, like 5 years or so. A high consumption of meat, like ethically sourced meat,
Yep.
an extremely low consumption of vegetable. I consume the fruits that I know I like, and my body responds well to it. And
Hmm.
I look at people. I'm like, my wife was like, your daughter woke up at 3 in the morning. You went to sleep at 1:30 in the morning. She stayed up until 4:30, and then I left and I met my friend at the gym at 5. I had 1 hour and a half of sleep. My wife was like, "How'd you do?" And I go, "Thank God I don't eat like shit,
That's true, man.
because if I did,
That's so true.
first off, your mental state. If
Yeah.
you're gonna if you're gonna eat well, just do it for your mental state. Like
Hmm.
sugar will make you the most depressed,
Oh yeah, sugar is
suicidal person you can ever think of in your own mental state, where it's like
hmm
got that red rum voice because you're consuming sugar. You're
yeah.
consuming sugar. You're eating pasta. It's not the same pasta. My son can't eat that pasta because he's got a gluten allergy. He breaks out. When I give him like the real old country stuff, he goes, "Daddy, I'm not itchy today." I'm like, "Good, son." I said, "That's because that's the old stuff.
Yep.
That's not the new recipes. Oh, it's
That's not
gluten
the new
free."
poison they're feeding us.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, and I'm a big believer on that. Like when I go to Milsims, everybody's like, I have a teepee tent that I use in Milsims, and I have a wood stove. So it's like I've played Milsims where it's like 10 degrees outside. I'm inside my tent at 60, 70 degrees. I've got chopped wood that I'm throwing into the wood stove. I'm staying nice and warm. I'm cooking liver, eggs, steak, drinking water with pinches of salt on my tongue because I haven't touched Gatorade, soda, juice in years.
Mm.
And it's like, you don't need it. Yes, it tastes great. It gets you that fix,
Yeah.
which is fine. I get it. Occasionally,
Hmm.
I'm a believer of psychologically, you gotta give that brain of yours, okay, here you go, no problem, here you go. But like at home, here we're lucky because we're in New York City. We have a gelato place where it's like vegan and dairy free, legit gelato. Absolutely, you're gonna find me there getting their dark chocolate. When I take my kids there, you're gonna absolutely see me asking for the espresso when they put the gelato, and then they pour the espresso on it. Yeah, man, I'm gonna indulge. I'm not stupid. I'm gonna die one day. I'm not gonna just tell myself, "Oh, you don't get that anymore." No, man, have fun. I'm gonna have fun, but I'm also not gonna hurt myself. Or
Right.
it's like I'm 39. I got to make sure that I'm not pounding down a pack or two of pasta like I used to in
Yeah.
college. College, I would eat a pie of pizza because I'm carb loading.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, how the fuck did I ever do that?
I
like,
mean, I did too, and some of the guys I worked out with, they did as well before we go lift, and it does
yeah,
give you energy.
yeah,
I mean, this is back in 1990, 91, 92. I don't think the pasta back then, the store-bought pasta, I don't think it
yeah,
had the shit in it that it does now.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
was very different. I never got lethargic when I ate pasta back then. My mom made homemade pasta when I was growing up. She's Italian.
Okay,
So she made homemade sauce, homemade pasta, all
yeah,
that stuff. And we never had junk food when I was growing up. Never ate
yeah.
junk food. It was chips were pieces of lettuce or celery. That was like, I yeah, so I was in good shape. You know, my mom's still, she's 82 and she's still kicking it, like very healthy. She does, she's 82 and she's not on any prescription medications.
Great. God bless. That's fantastic.
Isn't that crazy?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean it's wild, dude. She's always been more like homeopathic fixes, you know. She's like,
Yeah.
God gave us everything on this earth that we need to fix our bodies. We can use
Yeah.
that. We don't need this. And there's speaking of that, there, you know, you were talking about like the B12 stuff that's naturally in the tallow and everything. You know, people go to the doctor and get B12 shots.
Yeah.
Okay, those are synthetic.
Yeah.
They're made in a lab, and that B12 is actually hurting them. It's
Yeah.
not helping them. It's got some kind of, I can't remember the name of the ingredient. I was trying to look it up while you were talking because you said B12 in that tallow. It's the same ingredient they put in this Celsius energy drinks, and it's
Yeah.
cyanide something. And the main word is cyanide. It's 10 times the amount of cyanide you're supposed to have. And so that is the main ingredient in a B12 shot from the doctors. And this is what the kind of stuff we're getting instead of the real stuff. And it, to me personally, I'm convinced that it's not an accident. Like it's on,
No,
somebody knows, okay?
yeah.
People
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely.
they
Absolutely.
know, and it's not like, oh, well, we didn't know it was bad for you. Okay, just stop the bullshit. But yeah, anyway, so your tallow has all kind of healthy benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's the thing where it's like where you said, they know what they're doing.
Dude,
We live in an information age
exactly.
where you can fact check, like this whole fact check war, this whole being shadow banned on Instagram. Like,
Everyone's like,
hello,
oh, I don't know what, I think it's the guns. I'm like, dude, it ain't the guns. They have
no,
gun channels that are steadily going. They've got they'll show scenes, videos of real war, of somebody getting a grenade dropped on them from a drone and blown to pieces on Instagram.
yeah,
Somebody shot in the street,
yeah,
point blank in the head on Instagram.
yeah,
And you think it's your gun and airsoft that's why it's being throttled? No, it's because they don't want the younger generation who is attracted to airsoft. They don't want them liking the gun culture.
yeah,
That's what it is. Because they want to disarm us
yep,
so that we're a bunch of weak faggots.
yep.
Like,
That,
for real, bro.
it's true. Like I tell people all the time,
God.
and this is what my wife was like. Well, you can't because I have a degree in international criminal justice, and I
Okay.
might have theology and economics, and one of my studies was child soldiers in the Sudan. And it's like I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, think about the American Revolution and its history. Everybody talks shit about that that specific yellow flag with the rattlesnake. I go, first of all, did you know that the rattlesnake was meant to be America's actual representation of its animal? I go, because the rattlesnake is found in nearly every fucking state.
Yep.
I go, we got the copperhead, who's the cousin of the rattlesnake. We have rattlesnakes in upstate New York.
Right.
We have rattlesnakes up there. I go, and do you know why we have that flag? I go, that's the Gadsden flag. That's the first flag marched by the Continental Army to go get your ass, you know, revolution from the Redcoats. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was the first American flag. It's not a flag, it's our first flag. Like that it wasn't Old Glory. It wasn't the
Yeah.
13th colonial flag. No, the Gadsden flag was the first flag marched by the Continental Army to resolve the issue of us having this big ass bully who thought they can tax us.
Yep.
Where it's like, hey, well, look at now, look at this information. We're like, I'm watching Instagram and I'm like, shit, dude, am I really watching these Russian soldiers getting flown at with the drone? Meanwhile, I can't post a nice
A
run
hop
of
up or a bucking.
like
Like,
what the what? I'm like, come on. Then I get all these keyboard warriors, especially because I'm big on the whole carnivore thing. They're like, oh, and I'm like, listen, really? Show me your numbers. The guys that I follow, the men and women I follow, they put up their own medical numbers of the results of their own body. You know, they break down
yep.
those journals that you say that oh olive oil this, and I'm like, okay, I'll start in there, and I'm like, hey, listen, I've been to olive oil competitions. You're full of shit. You're full of shit. You know, in the olive oil competitions, nearly every one of them, and if not every single one of them, says, do not warm up this olive oil. It renders it
Mm,
completely useless.
that's
And it's like
wild.
when your reaction is like, well, how about? And I go, yeah, think
Yeah.
about that. Like the elite world of olive oil knows what's up, but
Yeah.
they have no power because
No.
the consume like we're such a
The
consumer.
mainstream media, man, if not just the news channels, I'm talking about like commercials and all the things that are pushed. If you look, here's a good rule of thumb for anyone that is still in the, got your head in the sand or you're still in the dark a little bit about people's intentions and what's going on. If the mainstream media, and I'm talking about any kind of commercials that are on or, whatever kind of ads you see, plus the news or whatever, if they're pushing whatever they're pushing, do the opposite. Okay.
Yeah,
If they're pushing that, oh, red meat, it causes cancer and it's so bad for you, go eat red meat. Okay. Because whatever they're going to say after that, like as an alternative, is probably the thing that's causing cancer.
yeah.
Like for real. It's time to
My
wake up.
my
And I
cholesterol.
don't, I'm not going off on a tangent or nothing, but dude, that it really bugs me when people act like, oh, I don't know. I don't think they really have bad intentions. I'm like, you think they're fucking dumb? They're sciencing the shit out of all these ingredients they're putting in these things. Why would they spend extra money to put it in there?
Yeah,
Like it costs extra to put it in there. If you look at some of these ingredients of like the manufacturers in America that make like condiments and things like this or soda, right? They have one that they make for us in
yeah,
America, and then they have
and
a whole separate one that they make for the UK because certain things are banned,
yeah,
like certain ingredients are banned because it's bad for you. And so they're already, my question is, you're adding extra ingredients in ours. You already make one without those.
yeah,
Doesn't it cost more? It's an extra ingredient. Doesn't that cost more? Don't you have to buy that in
yeah,
stock and supply? I'm like, dude, you can't tell me it's not on purpose. Just
yeah.
saying.
I've been to, let's see, I've been to the Netherlands, to Sweden, to Germany, to Greece.
Yeah.
There's foods you can't find there. There's foods where it's like, okay, no, we don't have that. That's not good for you. I'm like, oh, okay. And even like the last time I went to Sweden, I opened up my buddy's fridge and it's like Red Bulls, and I'm like, okay, still though, come on, man, come on, man. They're still trying to like, even in this cleaner market, they're still getting in. Like, you got to kick all that shit out. Like, they're still like, I'm convinced that even in that clean market, they're finding a way.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm like looking at it and I'm like, guys are like I've never seen so many people pop energy drinks. I thought we drank energy drinks. I was like, shit. I have friends at work, 9:30 in the morning, Red Bull. And I'm like, yo, bro, that's gonna fucking kill you. It's 9:30 in the morning, dude. Just drink your coffee black. Trust me. Black coffee will do the trick if you don't drink it normally black. And he's like, and I'm like, man, that shit. And it's the same thing in the EU, where it's like in Sweden, I'm like, red, yellow, purple, blue, all different colors for Red Bull. And I'm like, oh my God, bro. Just fast, take cold showers, don't jerk off, like make your body into a temple, dude. Like try for a little bit
Hmm.
and see that area you tapping into. That's the area that they're trying to block you from gaining access to. Like
Right.
I get arguments because I'm big on research. I'm in construction. We have to take a physical to wear respirators. Why is everybody and sorry, why is everybody wearing a mask?
Yep.
When we have to take a physical to wear a respirator, and when you open the respirator, the 50, 60, sometimes $100 respirators with a carbon filter, a legit way to filter out pathogens and
Hmm.
silica that can spread into your lungs, latch onto the membrane cells of your lungs. 25 years give you lung cancer. It takes that long sometimes. And we have these huge ass industrial filters, and all of a sudden you open up and it's like the paper that comes out is like that small. And when you open it, it's like a fucking folder. And it's a warning sign that says prolonged use of said respirator may cause cardiovascular damage. And then, oh shit, what are you talking about? That if I wear this mask for a prolonged amount of time, I could have heart problems? So what about everybody breathing in through their paper masks? They can't have heart problems. Oh, by the way, he was recorded saying that he completely made up the whole thing. All right, put him in front of a firing squad because 200 years ago, that's what you did.
Yeah.
Like, you literally ruined people's careers,
Oh,
people's
everything, dude.
their families,
Yeah.
like all because we were like, wait, something's wrong. That doesn't seem right. Like I'm in New York City, and I'm like, I drive around in my Ford 250, and I'm like, yeah, I love my diesel truck. First of all, you're being lied to with your electric cars. That's
Yeah.
another thing. Like, why would you wear a mask where you're in the car? You have to
Yeah.
think about it. You have to rationalize the science
Mm-hmm.
where, okay, we're not making fun of you. We're telling you honestly, wholeheartedly,
Yeah.
think about the science behind it.
Right.
Does it, is it sound science? No, it's not.
Mm-mm.
You know, there's pulmonologists who are out there saying, hey, listen, you know, we're starting to see cardiovascular problems in 18-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds. And it's like, holy shit, why? Well, look at what happened for 2 or 3 years. What do you mean, why? You know,
Yeah.
you know, we want to talk about, are they doing it on purpose? Absolutely. And it's
100%, bro.
a whole worldwide thing where it's like, you know, like that movie Ants,
Yeah.
where the grasshoppers like, are you kidding me? You have to be careful. Once those ants know they outnumber us 100 to 1, that's all it takes. And it's like, well, yeah. I
Yeah.
hate to sound political, but look at who he's putting into his cabinet.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen, guys. We said it for the last 4 or 5 years. Hey, you can fuck with the American public, but once everybody's on board, like, hey, you got two completely different party members joining his campaign.
That's right.
Okay, great. I can't wait for the swamp to be drained. And I hate to sound political, but the reason I say that is the economy in New York City was amazing. It
Yeah.
was downright amazing. There was no one I knew who had no jobs. The immigration status was amazing. I had cousins and aunts who were set up to come here from the Caribbean the legal way. Now it's like, oh, hold on, you're being pushed back through the new administration. I'm like, okay, how are you not seeing that this is on purpose? Like, stop.
Yeah.
Don't be ignorant. Ignorant is not a bliss.
No, dude. And the thing is, it's not well, it shouldn't be political. It's not political. Like what you're saying is not political. The news has made it political
Yeah,
because they want us divided, and it really is. It's not a political thing to want better for your community.
yeah,
Like what, dude, come on. And there's so many people that it's very frustrating that they can't break away from that
yeah,
whatever propaganda machine. They really believe everything that they're saying. And, like you see those memes where they're all the drawing of like hundreds of little art figures, the little face standing there like, yes, CNN is right. Oh, yes, Kamala is right. Oh, yeah. Like that flip flop, whatever, like
yeah,
whatever they say is just, and it's unfortunate because we're in the information age, like you said earlier. You have all this information right here at your fingertips in this phone. It won't show up. And you could look up something so quickly. You could fact check certain things. Like,
yeah,
even if you think Google it, like you have options. You could use
yeah,
DuckDuckGo. You could use all kind of different things to look things up. And people still just follow the leader. Like, I don't get it, man. I really don't get it. So, unfortunately, and then the ones that do research um, are coined as conspiracy. If you think
yeah,
outside the box, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist.
yeah. Ostracized by society
What,
immediately. And you're like, okay, but read a read a book. Like those are the
bro?
people. My wife laughs because I'm like, yeah, the people that think we're conspiracy theorists, they're also the people that can crush a Netflix series in a fucking weekend. You know, instead of like, oh, how many books you read?
Yeah,
And it's like, no, there's a reason why a long time ago, not that long ago, when you walked into somebody's home, if they had a library, you're like, oh shit, this person knows a thing or two because you don't just have a library. You kind of like I'm building a library and I'm like, man, I'm very proud of the books I have. I have, you know, the art of war. I have the 48 laws of power. I have the morals of a prince. I also have, warrior soul. I have the notebook. Like I have, Shakespeare. And I'm like, don't let this new age crap get to you. There's a reason why the arts was always pushed by our forefathers. Music, literature, and art, painting. There's a
Yeah.
reason for that. There's a reason for that because that's where the free thinking man lives and
Hmm.
thrives. Like if you sit down and you're crushing, and I hate, if anybody listening, if you sit down and you're crushing a Netflix series, if you put on an audiobook, your mind might just be blown away. Pick an audiobook of somebody who you respect or someone who you're trying to listen to, whether it's Goggins, whether it's
Oh,
Michael
dude,
Jordan, any of
David
those guys.
Goggins, bro. He will kick
That
your
whole callous,
ass.
yeah, like that callous your mind.
Yeah.
That was like, yeah, there's a reason for it, man. Everyone's like, oh, he's cocky. Yeah, for a reason. He's a hard, like he's hard.
He is a
Like
hard motherfucker. Yes, sir.
when you think about, and that's the thing where it's like men like that let you know of your capacity.
Hmm.
That's what he says all the time. I'm here to remind you of what you're capable of. You know, tell that brain of yours, shut the fuck up. I'm the one driving.
Yeah.
Like in the shit. Like guys like I like that's when I'm playing airsoft and I'm in the middle of Milsim and all of a sudden the hours of suck factor are just like through the fucking roof. I'll just turn around and I might have been friends with that guy for 10 years now and I'm like, yo, shut the fuck up. Suffer in silence, bro.
Yeah. Suffer in silence.
Silence, man. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, trust me, there's a fucking power to suffering in silence. The universe doesn't know what to do with the human being who suffers in silence. Not
Right.
don't about your problems. That's different. That's when the shit hits the fan. Bring out a cloth, laugh at the universe, and be like, "Where's the piss?" And the universe is like, "Well, some bitch, man. This guy's expecting piss too. I can't really do much more to make everything worse." He's like, "Fuck it.
Hmm.
It's already bad. Even if it gets worse, I'm already cleaning it. Let's get dirty." And that's where it's like the whole. I have friends. I have friends, family members, immediate family members. Where I'm like, listen, think for yourself, man. Think for yourself. The one thing we were given when we were born, and the one thing we are secured by the men and women who fought for us is free will. I have, and I'll say this as one of the rare Americans who was an international airsoft player. I had a debate in Sweden with the guy's neighbor, and she was like, "I'm very happy with the fact that the state takes care of me." I was like, "What?" I
Whoa.
was like, I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Stop! That's borderline 1940s specific people thought." And she was like, "No, how are you comparing me to that?" I go, "You're giving the state that much power. You're happy the state is taking care of you. It should be the other way around. The state should be happy you're taking care of it by
Hmm.
allowing it to exist." And she was like, "Oh, you sound like a typical American." I go, I know I do.
Right.
And I go, and because America exists is why the world still has its ample amount of freedom because they know that there's still one country that during COVID broke the record of 1 million or more weapons being bought monthly for 39 months.
I wonder
Because
why people did that. Hmm.
I told her, I was like, "Do you know why?" She was like, "Please enlighten me." I go, "If you're knocking on my door with that, I'm watching you out my door with that. Like,
Hmm.
if you're knocking on my door with that thing, I'm watching you on my side. If you're bringing a stick, I'm bringing the same stick." Like,
Yeah.
you know, in our Constitution, it's a militia,
Yep.
not a fighting force. No, they refer to it as a militia,
That's right.
which is literally a civilian made military.
Yeah.
It's why we
My
have
my father-in-law was always my wife and I've been married 32 years. So we've known each other since 1997. I've known her dad, her parents since 19 or not 97, 1987. I've known her dad. I met her dad in 1989. Okay, when we first went out on a date. And so I've known her dad a long time. he's never liked guns. He didn't even like really, he kind of didn't like the fact that I was in the military and stuff. But when all the riots were happening, okay, the
Mm.
dude, he wouldn't call me. Okay. He was too embarrassed to call me. He called one of my sons. All my kids know how to shoot proficiently. Okay. Even the girls and my wife and my mom and my two sisters who are against guns. I forced them to learn. But he called one of my sons and said, "Hey, how do I buy a gun?" Like he was
Uh,
freaking out. And I
yeah,
said, "See, that's what
yep,
I'm talking about, bro. Like you don't have to like guns. I've said it numerous times on here. If you're listening and you're against guns, I'm going to tell you this. Well, if you're listening to this podcast and you're against guns, bro, you better
yeah,
wake up because you're
yeah,
playing with real looking toy guns. But
yeah,
even if you don't like guns and you're a parent, if you have kids, you have a duty, a responsibility to train your kids to be safe. So at least get a gun or a fake gun or whatever and teach them gun safety. If you don't want your guns in your house, fine. But at least do the
yeah,
due diligence of a parent to teach your kids how to, be safe around guns so that when they go to their friend's house, they at least know so they're not going
yes,
to accidentally do something, okay? Or let their friend do it. And teach them how to drive a car, please, okay?
yeah. Listen, we have Nerf guns, airsoft guns. When my sister-in-law comes in and my little nephew, my wife's godson, starts, my son and my daughter start slapping that muzzle away. Not just, hey, what are you doing? It's even if it's a toy, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. I said it's important. It's a tool, and a tool can either do something good or do something bad. It's how you use it. Right? It's a tool. In our house, it's a tool. Hey, Daddy, did you have a great time in airsoft? Did you shoot them? Yes. Did you make sure you didn't get shot? Yes. And it's like it's normal. It's we normalize it. My wife has things in her bag where it's like, God forbid you try something stupid. I have told my wife it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Yep.
I said, trust me, I went to a cop college. If something ever happens, I'll just get on the phone with the former teammate, and be like, hey, this and this happened. Okay, tell me we're on our way. Like I have a sister who works close with members of the Fugitive Task Force for the FBI and all that. And I'm like, and you got state troopers. One time, a state trooper pulled somebody over in front of the house, and I live in Astoria, Queens, right off of a major highway that leads you into the outer part of New York. And I came right outside, and I was like, "Officer, you need you need a helping hand, and permit in hand and everything." And he was like, "You stay right there. Backup's on the way, but yeah, stay right there at the door, just in case." The dude was found with a cache of weapons and coke in the
Mm.
trunk, and I'm like this in my back and everything, just holding it, nonchalant. And he looked at it. He was like, "All right, you're good to go." Meanwhile, the guy's sitting handcuffed on the sidewalk in front of my house. I go, "We have him on camera, if anything, officer." He goes, "Just stay right there." He goes, "If shit hits the fan, at least I know there's another gun." And I go,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Yep." And I told my wife, like, I did Kali for years. And one of my favorite things of the Filipino martial arts was learning edged weapons. And my wife has this, like, the shit my wife has. I told her all the time, I said, "You do this, 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 and that." And just walk away. Call the cops. That's it. I said, "Don't even fucking give them first aid." I said, "Just walk away." I said, "I'd rather hire a really expensive lawyer than pay for a really expensive coffin."
Yep.
And then that's just how it is. Like I always tell everybody, I get you, like Jordan Peterson said it, and so did what the army dude. I forget his name. It's better to be a very violent man and learn to tame it. It's the men who have never been punched in the face
Exactly.
who create this soft society. Like the saying is, it's not that soft men create a weak society. It's good men have the duty to create more good men. No matter what kind of society you were growing up in, your duty of a good man is to create more good men. My son, 4 years old, I had to go to the dentist about a little less than a month ago because he punched me and we were roughhousing. And I
Mm.
tell him all the time, "Who can you do this with? With dad. Can you do this with the girls? No. Why? It's too strong." Yes, that's right. Being like, I tell my wife all the time, and it doesn't fail. They always roughhouse, and my wife always comes out bitching and moaning that my son is too rough. And I go, "Sweetheart, he's my son. think about the life I've had, and I'm
Hmm.
sure from what I've had. Like I was a wrestler, and a boxer, all that stuff. Like I grew up in the actual ghetto,
Well,
and I'm trying.
you're training him. Like these are life lessons he's learning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he. I mean,
My dad
he'll
taught
go.
me the same way, and I have two sisters that I grew up with, an older and younger, and I knew the difference. I wasn't my dad right from a young age was like when I was young, don't ever hit your sisters.
Yeah,
Don't
it's like
ever
that.
hit your sisters.
It's like that famous scene from in the book, but also from the movie about Chris Kyle, where it's like you're either going to be a sheepdog or you're going to be a wolf.
Hmm.
And yeah, you ever seen a sheepdog in action? Like those things are the Australian sheepdogs are fucking vicious when they're protecting the flock.
Yeah.
And it's as and my son's the same way where it's like, he'll go up to his cousin, hey, don't speak to your mom like that again. Don't hit your mom. I'll kick your ass. And he's 4 years old. And I'm like, son, just tone it down a little bit. Just tone it down just a little bit. He's like, yeah, but I know you're right. You're
Yeah.
100%
Yeah. Yeah.
uncle. Yeah, here he took care of it. You don't have to do. If you see Theo took care of it, that's it. Now, if uncle's not there and he's being a certain way, go for it, man. He's
Yeah.
older. He's 3 or 4 years older than you, and if he's gonna do that around you, and he knows what kind of personality you possess, yet he's gonna do that anyway. Like I tell my wife all the time, don't blame me for who I am if people are gonna act the way they are, knowing who I am.
Yeah.
Don't blame me for that shit. If they know that, I'm gonna check you. Hey, you don't talk to like I once was in the supermarket and some woman said to my daughter who's 6, and this was maybe like a month ago, "Oh, men have ruined society. We need more women." I said, "Pardon me, it's not your daughter to be saying that to." I said, "I get to influence my daughter how I want to influence." And I looked at that lady and I said, "It sounds like you got disappointed by the men in your life."
Mm.
That's what that sounds like. It sounds like you didn't have a strong-willed man give you the power you should have right now. You feel powerless because of that. And she was just like, meanwhile, I go shopping and I give those people eggs and beef tallow, and they were just like, oh shit, she picked on the wrong guy. And I just
She
go
probably walked
home
out there, but she's probably about to cry, bro. Damn.
because I looked at her and I was like, who are you telling my daughter? And then this old man next to her going, uh-huh. And I see the store owner going like this. So I'm like getting the nod of approval from everybody around about what I'm saying. So I'm letting her have it. I'm like, listen, that's not true.
Yeah.
Society, like we're not equal. I'm sorry, whoever told you that we're not equal. I can't do shit the way my wife can.
For a
There's
baby? No. And for kids, like
yeah,
yeah, my wife is the nurturing, right? The
yeah,
love and nurturing for my kids.
yeah,
And I mean, yeah, we have our roles, man. That's the way it's made. Again, this goes back to what I said earlier. Anything the mainstream media, commercials, TV shows, whatever they're pushing, it is not true. Okay.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
trying to program you the wrong way.
yep,
There is, man and woman, we have our roles.
yeah,
And especially when you get married and have kids, you definitely have a role.
yeah,
Be a responsible dad, be a responsible mom. You're it you being a strong dad and a strong man doesn't push your wife down as a
no,
woman. It makes her
no,
stronger.
yeah,
That's the way it's supposed to work.
yeah,
God made it to work perfect.
yeah,
Okay.
and for the young guys, listening, watching the podcast, the way to a woman's pants is literally showing her a man she's not willing to lose. Like you literally show her, oh my God, this man's gonna protect me, take care of me. Like on
Work
top of that,
hard. Yeah. And
yeah,
be a protector. Yep.
yeah, my wife will come to me, hey, I have this idea about wanting to start this business. Shit, great. How much do you need? When do you want? Can I help
How can I
with
help you? Yep.
that's shit? Yeah, are you kidding me? You want to be my boss? And
We support each other.
yeah, and
Exactly.
I'm like that's but that, and then like the mainstream media is like, oh yeah, no, women empowerment. No, dude, it's not about women empowerment. It's about relationship empowerment, partner empowerment. It's about the symbiotic relationship where it's like the push and pull, where it's like, we listen to certain people, certain influencers where it's like, is this a tag or is this a sit? Like, are you sitting this one out? Or do you need me like to, you need to tag me in? And I'll tell her all the time. I say it to my children. guys, quit it. I'm not mom. I don't have that kind of patience.
Yep.
I love you. I love you. You're my kids. But please remember, I ain't got that kind of patience. Mom's a saint. I'm not. I said, Daddy's trying. You're pushing it. And then my wife will look at me like, Gerardo, and I'm being honest with my kids. They're pushing it, and I'm not you. They need to know what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she'll turn around. She's like, well, that makes, and then she'll turn around, kids. Daddy is giving you a warning. Like, I
Yeah.
am giving you a warning. Chill. Stop what you're doing. Don't, like, they're going at each other's throats. And I'm like, Lucas, Chloe, stop. You're gonna, I'm going to throw your asses in the shower, cool you down. You
I tied
yeah,
my kids together. I would take an ace bandage when they were
nice.
fighting like that at that age,
Yeah,
and I would hold out your arms, and they would put their arms together, and
nice.
they would stand facing me, put their arms together, and I would wrap an ace bandage around their arm from their elbow to their wrist. I said, that's on there for like 2 hours. You got to do everything together. So you want to fight? Go ahead and fight, but you're stuck together.
Yep.
You got to eat lunch together. You got to play with your toys together. Like, this is it for 2 hours. They hated it,
Yeah,
but
but
they got along.
yeah, yeah. We would throw our, we were like, all right, go to your room. Well, I'm going to no, go to your room together. Go sit down. We want to hear that conversation. We want to hear it happen. And I have I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and people are like, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna hold them to this level of accountability. They're
Oh, they're
brother and
smart, dude.
they are the ones who are gonna have to have each other's backs. Like I have my sister's backs. I have my 3 brothers' backs. But I'm also going to be the one that's going to be like, yo, I'm going to call you out on your shit.
Mm-hmm.
You call me out on my shit too, please. And that's where,
Right.
like, son will be like, Chloe, mom and dad are talking to you. And then it's also like, Chloe will turn around, like, Lucas, do you know how many times I'm talking to you and you're not listening? And I'm like, all right, we're doing it right. Because at least before they go at each other's throats, they've spoken to each other several times. Now we're working on the whole listening part. And we'll say, hey, go to your rooms. Go to your room. Go hang out in your room. We want to hear that conversation. Chloe, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, blah, blah, blah. And then you hear it. And I'll nudge my wife. I'm like, see, that's what's supposed to happen. And my wife is her because she has 2 sisters. And they're all like 1 or 2 years apart from each other, all 3. And I'm like, sweetheart, you've never had a brother. As I grew up with brother and sister, I said, that shit's a whole different animal. I said, when you have boy and girl raising together, I said, it's cat and dog. They're going to go at it. Because she was like, why are they always fighting? I go, they're brother and sister.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And she was like, oh, is this ever going to end? And I go, hopefully, no. Hopefully they're fighting. I said, hopefully they're fighting like this for the rest of their lives, just different kind of ways and calling each other out on their shit. Like, that's the point. I go, that's what they're all trying to tell you not to do. Where it's like, oh, send them to school. Why? So that socializing is raise your hand and speak every once in a while? No. Like my kids will have a full blown conversation with the random person at a restaurant that we're eating at the beach town that we went to, and she'll be like, "I'm eating mac and cheese. Would you like to sit down and have some with us?" And I'm like, the random fucking stranger, Chloe. Same town that we're from. And we're like, well, look at that. We would have never known that you're from the same exact block that we're from if my daughter wasn't so social. And everybody's worried about my daughter's the most social person I know. And she got diagnosed with mild autism, but now she's being told that she might be homogeneous. And I'm like, okay, so it was just the system.
Yeah.
It wasn't my daughter. It wasn't my daughter. It was the system.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter's perfectly fine. My daughter literally Iraq every day. Like my wife goes to the library and she's taking out 20, 30 books every week.
Dang.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Dude,
And
that's awesome.
and the people that we tried to do a homeschool academy with, but we had to stop. They were like, I have bad news for you. I'm like, oh. They're like, your daughter's a genius. She's bored. She's bored. And I'm like, oh shit. And my wife was like, that's your daughter. Because look, she wants to read when she wakes up. She wants to read when she goes to sleep. And I'm like, well, I told you if she saw dad reading all the time, ingesting literature all the time, I said, you ain't making that person into a slave. I said, a person that reads all the time, you're not enslaving that person. Because they're going to pick up a book that eventually is going to just grab that mindset and say, huh, would you look at that? And, that's where that whole mentality of the media lying to you, we have a coexisting relationship. We have a place, and it's not bad that you have a place.
No,
Like,
we need a
your place.
place.
This is your place. You
Yep.
need to have a place to start from. Whether or not you want to grow from that, that's up to you. But you can't ignore it. That's where
Mhm.
all these younger folks feel lost because
Yeah.
they're ignoring what should first start out as.
Oh, they're
Like I
so
tell,
confused, dude. They're so
yeah,
confused. That's this guy. Yeah. When I set up these podcasts, sometimes people ask me, what can I expect? What kind of rules? What kind of, and they ask that. I think a lot of them ask that because they're so conditioned now to watching YouTube videos where the host or whoever's on the channel, whoever's talking, will self-censor, and they will say, "Oh, we can't say that because YouTube, they'll cancel it, or they'll."
yeah,
And I texted him back and I said, "There's no rules at all, like none. So you can talk, we can speak freely. You can, because he asked about like vaping and stuff too, and these are common questions. I'm not down on it. He's fine to ask a question, but I'm just like, he's like, well, I vape, is it okay to, like, all that kind of stuff? And I was like, dude, you can smoke, you can drink, you can smoke weed, we are completely free to do whatever, because I put these on like 20 different platforms. Okay.
yeah,
And some of them are, they're okay to be put on. Okay. Like, they're not going to censor them. Okay. Spotify and Rumble for sure. They're not going
yeah.
to censor that shit. So it's I don't care if it gets demonetized. This is what I texted back. I said, I don't care if it gets demonetized on YouTube. That's not my goal. My goal is not to
Yeah,
get my videos monetized and hurry up and, no, dude. Because then you're a sellout. In my
yeah,
opinion, I'm not putting somebody down that's working towards that. But if you do something that goes against your character and what you believe in, just so you can get clicks and views and money from that video, then you're a fucking sellout. Period. I don't follow that rule. I follow character, right? So that is, I mean, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. I'm just saying that's why I don't have rules on here.
you're
We
holding
can
yourself
speak freely.
you're holding yourself accountable to your values. Where it's like
Values, man.
I'm not budging from that. Like it's like, and that's where the whole that's where I came up with the whole Spartacus thing. Where it's like even the name of the company I listed under it's called Invenium Libertas, which is Latin for searcher of free men. Where it's like, listen, I'm all about freeing people that I am exposing myself to, because it's like,
Mhm.
hey, guess what? You're being lied to. This is what you should do. You should find first off, you should find your individual voice.
Yeah.
Like find that shit as fast as possible. And when you go in someplace and you see people making fun of you, just know you found it. Dude, I'm the LARPer. Like I gladly have done milsims where I'm LARPing, and people look at me and they're like, "Look at this ass clown," and I'm like, "Mm-hmm, yeah." 20 years into it, where I've seen many people walk away because they're not happy with airsoft, bro. Because you're trying to do too much with it instead of just
Mhm.
have fun. Get involved. Get deflower yourself. Like quit acting like a tight ass. Get in there, deflower your personality, and just be like, "Hey, I'm about all of it." And that's why I tell people like my biggest thing is like, "Oh, you're a milsimmer or an air or a speed soft?" Neither. I'm an airsofter. I play airsoft in all of its capacities. I've gotten arguments with speed softers. Oh yeah, but speed soft is the best. Milsimmer. I go, no, not one is. You can't fucking compare them.
No, it
Can't
is
speed
literally like
soft.
just personal preference.
Yeah,
And sometimes, like when I've said this too before, where back when I was playing in the early 90s, when I was playing paintball, we all just said, "Hey, we're going to play paintball." It
yeah,
didn't matter. That might have been at a speed field. That might have been in the woods.
yeah,
Hey, we're going to play paintball. We didn't say, "Oh, I got to play speedball," or "I got to play
yeah.
woods ball," or "I got to play." Like we didn't separate it and be like, "Oh, oh, that's all you play, speedball." No, no, I'm a paintballer. That's it. And yeah, it's such a weird thing. These
Yeah.
people are downing speed softers and mill simmers. I'm like, bro,
And then
y'all are
and
doing
then
the same shit.
yeah, and then you have like I speak with like guys like Kicking Mustang who get shit thrown at him because he does headshots. I'm like, man, quit it. Quit being soft. You
Yep.
came to sport where you get shot at. Like, really? You should see the shit I've done. Where, like, I go up to 10, 15 guys and slaughter them with the knife and make them feel this small. And it's like, and then I've had guys reach out to me, oh, you shouldn't follow him because he doesn't treat the sport of airsoft right because he does headshots. And I go, what the fuck else do you want a sniper to do? Shoot somebody in the chest?
I
I
had
go,
somebody
I
I invited, there was actually three people that I invited on in the last 3 years that I've started this podcast that knew that I had Kicking Mustang on and said, I'll come on the podcast, but I don't want to talk about Kicking Mustang. And I'm like, number one, why would I talk about Kicking Mustang? I'm talking to you.
yeah,
Like if you want to bring him up, that's up to you. But
yeah,
I'm not trying to promote him, just because I had him on. I appreciate what he does because he loves what he does and he doesn't
yeah,
back down to a bunch
yeah,
of pussies. Okay. Bro, follow your values
yeah,
and don't be a sellout.
yeah,
It's not hard.
yeah. I go hard at some of the UK community people because of what they do to him, and I'm like, guys, you still have one of the hardest tier groups in the world. Like, act like it. Like the SAS, they're fucking, they eat fire, shit out thunder, man.
Yeah,
Like
they're tough.
Kicking Mustang ain't far from that. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, his product you can't argue,
No, dude.
and then and he's honest about it, where he's calling out the people that did him wrong.
He's
Okay, what you do?
brutally honest. He's even
Yeah,
honest about his own stuff. Like
yeah,
he really wants to make it better. He is following what he loves to do, and he's not backing down to a bunch of whiners.
yeah. And every single time he posts something, I'm always like, yeah, man, I
You
love
see the
this. Like,
recent one where he's like, his I'm gonna use this girl to as bait. And everyone said, oh my god, this is sexist. And he's
I
like,
literally respond,
dude,
yeah,
his
what,
post, the thing that he wrote about that, like explaining, was really, really well worded. Like
yeah,
it was perfect to the point, exactly, like very objective.
yeah,
It's not about female or male. It was about who is the weaker link on the
yes,
field. I'm going to
yes,
use that as bait, and
yep.
I'm going to do this. If it happens to be a girl, whatever. If it
They
happens to be
don't.
this guy over here, whatever. It wasn't because it was a girl. It was because of how they played, and he could use them as bait. That's it.
They're creating. Well, they're creating an effective monster. That's what they don't understand. Like, every single battle on the keyboards that they put him through, and he just comes out the other way. I'm like, man, you guys
Well,
are
not only
so
that, he posts
like,
their comment. He's not
yeah.
hiding anything.
No, he's like, okay, look, like one of my favorites is the one that he used as a shield. I was like, dude, this is great. You should see what we do here. I was like, here, like, we do the same shit here, but we'll injure somebody, and it's, you have the first injury, the second injury, where it's like when you kill them, but then they can call out medic, and some Milsim producers, they used to. There was one that would allow you to call out positions, even if you needed medicing, but you couldn't shoot, you couldn't move. So drag the person, sit them up against the tree, let them call out positions. I need a medic, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden the team's coming, the knife comes around the tree, cuts the dude, and the guy's like, holy shit, did he just execute my guy as soon as I was ready to go get him? And then all of a sudden you're in the funnel of death with an L and getting hit. And it's like, okay, Kicking Mustang's level of like savagery with that is like, you should see what we do here in the States. Like, shit, there's a frag in every single hole, in every single room we breach. Like, you automatically need a headset in some of these events. Like,
Yeah.
it's like bang, bang. It's like, okay, great. Like, that was the biggest thing too. When I was at Burget, I was asking Marcus. I was like, "What about this? What about that?" He was like, "No, man, no, man." I go, "What?" I go, "That shit's normal in America. You wouldn't have a blast. You'd be getting your shit given to you. You eating it." Because I go, pyro this, no this, and I go, dude. And every Milsim man, every group that plays Milsims out there, they got like 2 or 3 cases of pyro. Like, if you're going to a serious Milsim, like, guys are like, yo, make sure your ear pro is up to date, dude. Like, make sure your ear pro is up to date, because like I go to Milsim here in the States, I have 2 franks hanging off the side of my junk, literally hanging right in front on a carabiner, like 2 testicles. And people are like, "Yo, that's risky." I'm like, "No, man. Do you know how easy it is to reach at your balls, pull a frag, and toss it?" I said, I've been reaching for my balls since I was a kid. That's the and the guys will start laughing, and I'm like, "Well, think about it. A carabiner with 2 frags, the E67s just hanging there, and just pull a. It's so second
It's
nature." And
natural. Yeah.
guys are like, "Holy shit, that makes sense." I'm like, "Yeah, man, don't knock that extreme shit. That extreme shit works. You just got fed bullshit. Like you just got fed totally wrong information of how not to be efficient and effective. Like, dude, be a savage. Like when he starts being savages, like I have a thing about like I talk about influencers that actually influence. Like I stopped following like 95% of influencers on YouTube because I'm like, you're fake, you're fake, you're fake. I'm
Hmm.
like, nope. I like you bent, you broke, you bent, you broke. Nope. I'm like, it's cool. You're putting this guy on. That guy was an operator. That's great. But I'm not convinced about you. Like that doesn't convince me about you. Great. The company you keep, great. But the shit you posted was shit. You act like your shit don't stink. I'm like, your shit stinks and I can smell it from the internet. I'm like, come on. Like, not only does it
Uh,
stink, I can smell it from the internet. Like, stop. Like, that's where I'm like, that's why I love watching guys like names Nico, where I'm like, man, yeah,
yep.
dude, yeah, absolutely.
Him
And then you
too.
have,
He's like,
yeah,
I'm gonna do me, and you say what you want, whatever.
yeah, and it's like great. And that's like you have different personalities from around the world. Where I'm like, yep, that person gets it. Yep, that person gets it. Like, there's one specific personality that I'm like, man, why did you do that? And everybody knows from the West Coast, and I'm like, why did you do that? You had my respect until you decided to do that stupid shit, and then you got caught. Like, why? Why? Especially because you were the real deal. You were in. Why? And the company you keep. Like, I stopped following him, and I'm like, I can't follow you. You're flopping. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah,
Like, I
me
don't
either.
like. I like and I do follow female airsofters, but even then, there's some female airsofters where I'm like, nope, you're a sellout. Nope, you say that you wouldn't show skin, there you are showing skin. And I got a daughter who I want playing airsoft. So the women in airsoft that I follow, I'm like, and I got to meet some of them in Sweden. I'm like, yep, there's a reason why. And I look them right in the face. I go, this is the reason why I follow you. And they're like, oh, thank you. And I go, because you're the real shit. Like
Hmm.
you legit are who you say you are. I
Yeah.
go, and I love the fact that I got to meet you in person and you are exactly who you are. Like, I'm watching them barking orders at guys, and I'm like, all right, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like, and like efficient orders where it's like, all right, she knows, like, airsoft can be an extremely well developed game of strategy that can be really fun. And it's a game of chess. And if you have the right people with the right mindset, you can make the other team feel like very belittled. And I was like, man, she knows what she's doing. She's moving around. She's moving around that chessboard. She's fucking shit up. Like, all right, you cannot deny that. Like, then there's others who are like gun bunnies, and I'm like, nah. I married a blue-eyed, blonde-haired Greek. I don't need to look at a gun bunny. I got one at home. Like, I don't need that. I need to see a badass woman that I can turn around, look at my daughter, and be like, yo, check this girl out, sweetheart.
Hmm.
Look at how tough this girl is in the sport. You can do that too when you get
Yeah,
older and you go, dad, and oh,
exactly.
dad, that too. And I'm like, that's what I like. That's why I'm like, all right,
Role
those,
models.
yeah. Where I'm like, listen, if you're gonna follow this, follow that. The minute I see an influencer, just I'm like, nah, man. I'm like, you're full of shit, dude. I'm like, stop. I'm like,
Yeah, there was somebody, um unicorn somebody on the West Coast that I stopped following because she made this post a couple years ago that was like out of the blue, man. Like I don't even
yeah,
know what. It was all this like she posted something about her boobs or whatever, and it's so sad that I have to post this to get clicks. And I'm like, well, you didn't have to post it. Okay.
yeah,
Like you're trying to make a point, and it's disgusting that you're making this, trying to you're saying, oh, like all you're doing is making an excuse to make this post. That's what you're doing.
Yes. Yep.
Like, and I'm not buying it. It's fucking
Yep.
bullshit.
Yep.
And no.
Yep.
So it
I am
was,
fine.
yeah.
That that's exactly the same moment that I did the same thing because I said to myself, "What the fuck would my wife say if she saw me looking at this on Instagram and it's airsoft? She's gonna be like, "You have tits here at home. What are you doing?"
Yeah,
Like,
right.
what do you like? That's the way I see it. Where it's like my wife can take my phone, look through it, and I'm like, okay, cool. But not if you got influencers posting that, where I'm like, well, I'm unfollowing you because it's not. I just don't want that. I
Yeah.
like the whole the persona where it's like, dude, you bring a different flair. But what are you doing? Like that's selling out. Oh no, there's
Yeah,
some
I don't
women.
mind. Like, that's the thing. I don't mind. Okay, you want to post in a bathing suit. I mean, we go to the beach, you see girls in bathing suits. My wife wears a bathing suit, whatever. Like, it's no big deal. But that particular post was trying to make this statement of how, oh, guys only click on this, or it's this that whole thing. And I was
I,
just like, dude,
I, and I remember it because I remember that I started following because I was like, yo, that lady can eat BBs.
yeah.
Holy shit, she can eat BBs and act like nothing. She's tougher than a lot of the guys I know. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what's this clickbait? I'm like, come on,
Well, not only that,
hell.
but she went on this tirade on uh I think it was administrative results, the real steel guy,
Yeah, yeah,
because of some friend he has that, another real steel guy, that she went on this whole thing, like posting close-ups of his tattoo and talking about he's a Nazi. And I was like, dude, like, you're kind of reaching here.
yeah.
I read the whole thing and I was like, okay, I don't know. I didn't know if she was just got pissed off. I don't know the behind the scenes of where it came from, but my take on it was she was just trying to, like, boost her clicks. And that, to me, that's what I'm talking about earlier, like the sellout stuff, you
Well,
know.
it's also hard to play a sport and denounce the second. Like, she's one of them where it's like you play a sport that is about replicas, they replicate
Duh,
weapons, and here you are denouncing them.
dude.
Okay, goodbye, unfollow. Like there was not like I have a friend who's from here from the East Coast, and he was in a chat. He talks about that, and I'm like, I unfollowed him immediately. I'm like, yo, you're like, what kind of ass backwards thinking is that?
I don't get
Like
it.
you play a sport where you're firing guns. Where I have been in airports, and they're like, holy shit, what is that? I'm like, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. There's paperwork, it's
Yeah,
fake. They're toys. And they're like, oh, okay, well, that looks real.
yeah.
That don't look like, I'm like, well, it's a toy, I
So
promise.
I'm confused where some people tell me they are, I don't know, leaning left or whatever, and as far as politically. And I'm going, yeah, how? Like, so, okay, I get it. Most of your, belief system is on that. But so, what I want to ask people that have kind of told me that or whatever, like, how do you feel about guns and gun rights and gun ownership, like just real steel guns? Because if you're against it, which the left is highly against,
Yeah,
common citizens having guns, then what are you doing playing airsoft?
yeah,
Like, why don't you go play Nerf or
yeah,
paintball or something that doesn't look like a real gun? Like, why are
yeah,
you attracted to this, but you're not for the Second Amendment and gun rights? Like, that doesn't even make sense, bro. That's like a
yeah,
new kind of idiot. I don't
yeah.
get it.
Like for me, it's like hard to register because I'm like, all right, hold on a second. Like, and then I'll tell people, I'm like, you do realize that this sport came about as a cheaper, more affordable way of training
Training.
real in Japan. I go, you do realize that there are replicas that are so realistic that if you train with them, the only thing you need to train for after you use these replicas is the real thing and it's recoil.
Recoil. Yep.
That's it. And people are like, oh, and I'm like,
And loading the magazines, by the way, with real steel, you will get blisters. Load 30 magazines of 5.56. You will get a
yeah.
fucking blister on your thumb, okay? That shit hurts.
Or the slide cut.
Yeah, right.
Or you're shooting enough. Like my cousins have so many different weapons and friends in Pennsylvania, and it's like a fun day in the woods is like $1,000 worth of rounds, and then you have to put on gloves because it's like you're having so much fun that it's like boop, there goes the Glock. It caught your thumb. You're like, oh, some bitch.
Uh-huh.
And why play the sport?
It doesn't
Like
make sense to me.
you're like what's the word? Like a poser. You're a poser.
Yeah.
Like you're enjoying it, but you feel guilty because you were told this is bad for you. No, it's not. It's again, it's a
I
tool.
can play with my toy guns even if they look real, but you're not allowed to have a real gun. How dare you have a real gun? Yeah, but you're dressed up like you're going to war.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
I don't understand. Like what?
yeah.
So weird.
Wearing
Dude,
wearing wearing the uniform of somebody who marched in war at one point. Like that's where that's where I use Spartacus as a kind of way of saluting that world. Where it's like nowadays I wear like a badge of honor where I'm like, listen, 95% of the skills I've gained is because of real war dogs.
hmm,
Guys that were in the shit for the last 20 years and decided to teach.
right.
Where, oh, where'd you learn that from? I was like, I paid good money for this from this instructor who was in for 20 years and decided to throw a course, except I didn't have real steel. I had airsoft. Like, I remember one instructor, he was like, Burget, an airsoft rifle? I'm like, yeah, I live in the middle of New York City. It's really not the smartest thing to have a fucking M4 in New York City. Like, that's frowned upon. So I'm bringing an airsoft rifle. Okay, great. As long as it can move the same as a real steel. So I would bring my LM4, and they're like, "Man, this is like fucking 1-to-1." I go, "Yeah, funny you should say. This is called a 1-to-1 rifle. It's everything the same. Send that bolt forward, everything. Pop open, take that bolt out, upper comes out, the upper comes off like that and everything." And they're like, "Okay, well, you're gonna learn the right way." And that's where I was like, "Shit, yeah." So I use Spartacus as a way of showing gratitude and appreciation to the men and women who I took courses from, where I'm like, "Yeah, I know my shit don't stink when I go on the field because look at what I learned from who I learned."
Hmm.
Like, you know, guys who were on loan to the U.S. Army from the German military. I learned how to do night vision, what they call it, warrior course, and it was 3 days of night vision training. And I
Nice.
was like, my battle belt. I'm like, listen, that's how, and guys are like, oh, Spartacus, how do you think about this, and that? I go, this is my own personal opinion, but this is where I got this opinion from. This is where I got this information from. If you like it, great. If you don't, just remember you asked me. You ain't gotta like it, but you asked me.
There you
And
go.
I'll be like, this, and this on your battle belt. You don't need anything else. Oh, what about a drop leg holster? No. Put the holster on your battle belt. Put the holster on your battle belt. You don't want the drop leg holster. Why? Because this is not again, you asked me. I'm no. If you don't like that, you don't need to do it. But I'm letting you know that this dude was a breacher. He fucking like just that alone to know where everything is. Shit gets dusty. You want to know where everything is. You don't want to change your gear setup. It sounds, whatever's like, oh, I got this setup, that setup. No, no, no. Like keep it fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
I for Burget, I worked with a gear developer, Two Faced Threads, Kevin, and I was like, Kev, I know you do belt rigs for Speedsoft. I want to collaborate with you so you can do me an AK rig for Burget. He heard me out completely, and
Nice.
what I took to Burget, man, I was handing out just whipping ass because he did it how I wanted. Three mags in the front, a radio pouch right next to my ribs on the right underneath my right breast, everything. A certain way for the restrictions, the backpack, the whole 9 yards. And he was all open to it. And all of a sudden, I'm like texting him in the middle of Burget, dude, your rig is fucking fire, man. It hasn't failed. My reload time is the same now with this AK as it is with the M4 and the MP5. Like it's great, and it's the listening to what works. Like that's what I tell everybody: listen to what works. Don't try to
Hmm.
create your own style. That's great, but
Sure.
just remember listen to what works. Keep it simple, stupid.
There you
Yes,
go.
can't go wrong with that, man. Like
I
you
hear
just
you,
can't.
brother. Dude, it has been awesome talking with you. I'm so glad we got to meet up and do this. Next
Likewise, I
time, yeah, we'll get a couple of your teammates on as well. We'll have a
yeah.
group. That'd be awesome, man. Well, let everybody know where they can find all your stuff, and I'll have all these links in the description as well.
So I have my Instagram is airsoft_Sparticus, and I'm working on a website, and I should debut it. I want to say at some point in September. It's I renamed my Airsoft Sparticus website is now going to be named culturedgladiator.com. So I figure you're going to find my tallow, my patches, where you'll find my Spartacus patch,
Oh, nice.
and then you have the famous gladiator patch where it's brothers, what we do in life echoes in eternity.
Hmm.
So I'm big on the whole warrior mentality. Then you have the glow in the dark patch. When the lights turn out, the only thing you see is the spear, the helmet, and the shield. And it
Nice.
says the famous Greek Manon Labe, which stands for "come and get them." So it says
Yep.
"come and get." Lights go off. You'll find that there. So I'm trying to create my name for Rumble and Parcel, all the places where it's like freedom is expressed
Exactly.
without any kind of discrimination.
Hmm.
Like what you're saying, like that's my tough part about going back into YouTube. Where I'm like, I know it's been a while, but it's also because I'm looking at YouTube and I'm like, man, you guys are censoring way too much for me to even feel comfortable putting my content on there.
Yeah.
I'd rather drop it on TikTok where I'm like, fuck it. At least I know they're gonna show it to the world. So find my content on TikTok, Instagram, and eventually culturedgladiator.com is going to be airing pretty soon. I'm working on that. Where you'll be able to find this, where I've already made orders. You can reach out to me and I'll be able to send orders and, change the life of milsiming, at least, in airsofting,
Right.
where I can the battle sap, this stuff will make the old man in you disappear. Because I'm like, put it on, and they're like, oh man, I don't feel sore. I'm like, yeah, man. I go, dude, it's that beef fat, man, mixed in with some of those oils and flours. Call me a hippie, but dude, some of the meanest fighting people on earth during times they were pretty hippie. The whole being a warrior in the garden thing. Like, yeah, man, I'm absolutely that guy with like the katana sword, tending to his tomatoes. I'm like, so yeah, yeah.
You know what else makes the old man go away? Alcohol.
Yeah,
But it doesn't last long
yeah,
enough, okay?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, man. Well, it's been great talking with you, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Everyone
Thank you.
watching, listening, go to his Instagram. I'll have all the links in here, and his YouTube, and soon to become in the website. And go check out our sponsors, Skirmish, playskirmish.net to find out more, and jacktack.com. All right, man. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, brother. It was a pleasure.